Good morning. Welcome to Ada 247 JAIIB Cap English Medium channel. I hope all of you are doing fine. Today we commence the official final revision of our May 2026 examination. Fine. Finally, the moment has arrived where we must start revising whatever we have studied, start consolidating whatever we have studied, because ultimately this is the time where we will be having a limited amount of time with us. We will be having some resources which we have shortlisted from our preparation, and now we must keep revising. We must keep revising in order to retain all those sources which we have studied. Right? So this particular session is for all those aspirants who want to crack this examination. They want to score maximum marks, fine. And from today till the examination day, till they enter the examination hall, they are committed to give their 100%, right? So in this session, we will be revising everything, right? All those topics, all those important subtopics, the chapters, the important modules of the IE and IFS, right? Indian economy, Indian financial system, everybody knows that it is just not that simple. You require some practice, you require some type of smart planning to crack this examination. But still, I would say that most of you, as we are taking the sessions on this particular channel, you have been consistent, you have shown that consistency. Now is the time to capitalize. Fine, you just have to believe in yourself and try to be regular in these 2 days as well. Fine. Okay. So good morning everybody. uh, then let's begin the session, let's begin our class, the final revision for the IE and IFS May 2026 examination. So the first uh, mode of operation, let me just tell you how we will be operating in this particular revision session. First thing, we will be trying to cover the important topics, fine. There will be some questions also, fine. We'll be covering the questions, and related to those questions, all those important concepts we will be covering. Secondly, the important part is that whatever the IIBF has asked earlier, we will be touching upon those topics as well. Fine. So specifically, topics also we will be covering. The questions also, as well as the topics. And some will be a hybrid model. Fine. Wherein via the questions we will be learning the topics. Fine. So all these permutation, all the combinations we will apply, so that in this limited time period we will be able to revise. So let's start our discussion with the first question. Which type of FDI involves a multinational corporation buying the stock in an uh, already established firm in the host country? Already established firm. What will be the right answer here? See, your participation will ultimately determine the flow of this particular session. If you guys will be participating in huge number, if you are quite responsive, then it will be an interactive session, which we want. Fine. We always want that our session must be interactive. Okay. Yes, yes. So I can see that the answers are pouring in. We have FDI, which involves a multinational corporation buying the stock in an already established firm in the host country. Greenfield FDI, brownfield, joint venture, or portfolio investment. It is definitely the brownfield FDI. You already have some setup in a country, and now you have acquired some stakes in that particular company, right? And via that company, you are operating in this country. So quickly just revise the types of FDI. We have Greenfield FDI as a parent corporation who is establishing a subsidiary in the destination country. It builds the operation from the scratch. We have the examples as Hyundai India, Pepsi India. Then we have brownfield FDI, wherein a multinational corporation buys the stock in an established firm in the host country. Fine. Like in India, we have seen that Maxi India was the prime example, wherein Daiichi Sankyo from Japan acquired the stakes. Lastly, we have the joint venture. In the joint venture, what to we have to remember for the exam? Simply, it is based on the joint agreement, you can say, like the many bilateral agreements you must have seen. So based on the agreement, a foreign company and a local company, they join the hands, and thereon they will be sharing the investment as well as the technology profits and so on. Like was a company, Hero Honda, fine. Now the Honda is there. So Hero was ultimately Indian company, Honda the Japanese automobile giant. They joined hands, and ultimately the setup was known as joint venture. Yes, yes, B is the right answer. Good, good. Another important point from this FDI itself, which stems is your FII. They often ask the question from the FII also, foreign institutional investment. What is this FII? Simply stated, FII are the institutional investors. They are not the residents, they are from the foreign party, right? They are just here to trade. So FII, they are always considered as volatile in nature because ultimately they will be leaving the country once they make the profit. But FDI, you cannot say that Pepsi will come to your country and they will be establishing the plant and machinery, and after then fleeing the company, fleeing the country as soon as the profit is there. No, they are here to stay, and it is stable in nature, and there is hardly any threat of capital flight. So such type of questions, point 0.5 marker can be asked, that capital flight is associated with what? FII or FDI? It is FII. Then FII is also known as hot money. It changes the uh, geography quite quickly. Fine, geography in the sense, ultimately the location we are talking about. From the market where the FIIs are today, they will flee with the capital and move to the next market. That's why we call it as a hot money as well. Then from the FDI, what else we have to revise? So we have to understand that what is the limit, FDI limit for defense manufacturing. It stands at 100%, 74% through the automatic route for new defense industrial license, the DIL as we call it, and up to 100% by the government route in access to modern technology. This is the first important one out of all. Second important one will be our print media, which we should revise, we should retain for our examination. Print media 26%, government route is there. Then the most important one which can be asked this time, it is insurance, which is 100% automatic route. Fine. These three chances are there that they will ask you in the examination. Apart from that, we have the banking private sector 74%, banking public sector as 20%. 74% the private sector as we call it, automatic up to 49%, 49% up to 74% will be under your government route. So these subcategories are also very, very important. Point 0.5 marker direct questions will be asked. Then from the FDI itself, so from a question we are revising every aspect, important aspect of the entire topic. FDI prohibited sectors. So we have some sectors which are prohibited to receive FDI, like lottery business is there, which includes the government or the private lottery, online lotteries, gambling, betting, chit funds, and Nidhi company. Directly, you cannot receive the FDIs here. Trading in the transferable development rights, when we talk about zoning criteria, fine, where the property was earlier owned by XYZ company, now they are not owning that, and ultimately transferring the ownership to a foreign entity, and via the FDI, the funds are moving there. That is prohibited. Real estate business, and in the real estate business is does include the development of township, construction of residential commercial properties. These type of you can say premises they can receive, but the real estate business for speculative purpose, there the FDI is not allowed. Construction of farmhouses, manufacturing of cigar sherrots, we have cigar rolls, cigarettes. Then achieve activities or the sectors not open to the private sector investment. If they are not open to the private sector investment, how they will be open for the FDI? Fine. So private sector investments, we don't have the atomic energy, or for that matter railway operations. Fine, they are not open. Fine. Now let's talk about which of the following indicators is used for measuring the economic development but not for measuring the economic growth. Development but not growth. GDP, HDI, GNI or PCI. What is the right answer here? GDP, your gross domestic product, HNI, HDI, that is your Human Development Index, GNI, which is your gross national income, or for that matter, per capita income. Quickly answer. Okay, so when you talk about the economic development, but not measuring the growth, development but growth. Development talks about what? Your overall criteria. Social welfare is also there, but growth only about the numbers. So right answer is your option B. We are talking about the Human Development Index. Fine, measuring the economic development, but not for measuring the economic growth. Fine, growth we measure via your gross national income, your GDP, your per capita income, but welfare you will measure via the HDI, Human Development Index. Good, good. B is the right answer. Other indicators being HPI, Human Poverty Index, Gini coefficient. Then we have the Gender Development Index, GDI, Balance of Trade, PQLI or Physical Quality of Life Index. Then for the economic growth, three you have to remember GDP, GNI, and per capita income. Economic growth only looks at the quantitative aspect, only the quantitative aspect we are talking about in the growth. Whereas in the development, both quantitative as well as qualitative. Economic growth, it refers to the increase in production, only in the production, but productivity will increase once we have the social welfare angle along with the economic indicator or the economic growth. The narrow concept out of two comes to be your economic growth, and the broader concept is your economic development. So we always say that within the development, we have the economic growth concept. So growth is a subset of development. Economic growth is more relevant for assessing the progress in the developing countries. Fine, always remember growth whenever a country is there which has good numbers and finally it has received a developed country stage. They will be now focusing only on the growth itself because development they are already developed. Economic development, it is more relevant for measuring the progress in the developing countries like India. Okay, which currency was added to the SDR basket during the review in November 2015 and made effective from October 2016? So when you talk about the SDR basket, the review happened in November 2015. Fine, it happens periodically, regular basis. Same happened in 15 also, and one particular currency was added. Which is that currency? Indian rupee, Chinese renminbi, or for that matter, Swiss franc, Canadian dollar. Yes, it was Chinese renminbi. Good, B is the right answer. So SDR, we will be looking into SDR as it is not a currency, neither a currency nor a claim on the IMF. SDRs can be exchanged for the currencies, and the currencies are the basket of currencies. It includes dollar, US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, pound sterling, and Chinese renminbi or Chinese yuan. Okay, so yes, in 2015, the review happened, and then to with effect from 1st October 2016, we saw that Chinese renminbi was added. The SDR basket is reviewed every 5 years. Fine, always remember this is an important fact. Reviewed every 5 year or earlier. Fine, minimum time period, maximum time period, both things you must know. Fine, so there is what a maximum time period is there that after every 5 years, so you have to, but earlier also you can. Also, the review of SDR is determined on daily basis. Fine, the value of SDR is based on the daily value. Why? Because we are talking about the currency here. Currency value changes on daily basis, fine, and this daily value only will decide that what will be the ultimate value of your special drawing rights. World Bank, ultimately, let's just have some review of other international economic organizations also. So World Bank, what all important things we have to learn, whatever we have to revise here. World Bank emerged from Bretton Woods Conference, which is officially known as the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference, held in 1944 in Bretton Woods, Washington DC, in USA. And when we talk about the headquarter, it is in Washington DC only, fine. North Hampshire was the exact location for the Bretton Woods, but the headquarter is Washington DC. uh, World Bank, ultimately the aim, what is the aim? They will ask you this question. They have already asked also for point 0.5 marker, that its aim is to elevate the poverty in developing countries. Fine. In the developing countries, there should not be poverty. We should eradicate every scope of poverty, if any. Also, for the World Bank Group, you will find one important aspect, that the five organizations, they keep on asking this question also. So you must revise these: IBRD, IDA, IFC, MEGA, and ICSID combined together, they form the World Bank Group. Commonly, when we club IBRD with IDA, we call it as World Bank, but all these five club together known as World Bank Group. So IBRD has a specific role here. And what is the role? To promote institutional, legal, and regulatory reform. And the same role is for the IDA, to give the long-term loans. But what is the difference then between both? Both of them differ in the clientele. Fine. The clients of IBRD, they have the per capita income. The countries are the clients, right? So for the IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, your countries will be having a per capita income between 1025 and 6055 US dollar. For IDA, this number stands at per capita income less than 1025 US dollar. Then we have your IFC. What is the purpose of IFC, International Finance Corporation? Simple purpose is that we have to promote the private sector development. MEGA, your multilateral investment and guarantee agency, it has twofold purpose. One is that it will bring the FDI to the developing countries, and once the investors are okay with the FDI, they will be supporting the investors also. MEGA will be supporting the investors also via some insurance, via some guarantee against the political, or for that matter, some unforeseen circumstances or the risks. Then we have ICSID, which is the arbitrator and the International Center for Settlement of Disputes, the investment disputes we are talking about. Why this is important for our exam? Because ultimately India is a member of all the four, but not ICSID. India is not a member here. So always remember, India is not a member of ICSID, but it is a member of IBRD, IDA, IFC, and MEGA. Direct questions will be asked. Then we have the WTO. What all important points we have to remember for WTO? See, the foundation year is important, but in the last few exam cycles, they have asked the question from the ministerial conference, which is just a part of your WTO. So GATT is the particular term which you will hear often whenever you are studying WTO, Journal Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Let me just quickly give you a brief overview. GATT was just an agreement. Fine. When we talk about Bretton Woods Conference, there you will find uh, primarily three organizations were to be formed, starting off with the IMF, which was formed then for the ultimate the bank that we call as World Bank. So IBRD was formed, and lastly one trade organization was to be formed. But the consensus was not reached, and ultimately in 1947 we had the GATT among the countries. So it was signed by 23 nations in 1947 in Geneva and went into effect on 1st January 1948. India was the founding member of the GATT, and from 48 to 1994, you will find that GATT used to set the rules for much of the international trade. Fine, it was based on the journal agreement itself. But ultimately, WTO was founded on 1st of January 1995. Till last year, this was a hot topic because 30 years were completed. But they can ask you this time also. Marrakesh Agreement establishing the World Trade Organization was signed by 123 countries on 15th April 1994. Fine. The question they keep on asking is this one, WTO. It is simply a forum where the member countries' government try to resolve trade disputes with one another. Among the countries, we have n number of disputes, and the countries' government will be trying to resolve the trade disputes where uh, via going to the WTO fora. Objective to help its members use the trade as means to raise the living standards, create jobs, improve the people's life. And when we talk about what is the important part, it is this one. The WTO's top decision making body, Ministerial Conference of Trade or Commerce Minister, they meet roughly every 2 years. Fine. So what is the frequency? Approximately roughly 2 years. Last time it was 2024, and now this year itself, from 26th to 30th March 2026, they met in Cameroon, fine, one country in Africa, fine. So 2024, then 26, next they'll meet by 2028, like that. Fine. Apart from that, in the last examination, November 2025, we saw some regional economic cooperation. One question was asked from BRICS. So this time around, we can expect a question from OPEC because it has been in news, right? Organizations of petroleum exporting countries, 1960, fine. That is the ultimate establishment year. It is just an intergovernmental organization comprising of 13 oil exporting developing countries founded in Baghdad, Iraq. Members include your Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi, Venezuela, Libya, UAE, Algeria, Nigeria, Ecuador, Gabon, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, and your Congo. OPEC's headquarter is in Vienna. This headquarter they can ask, fine, because the countries which are the member, they are in the Western Asia, mostly concentrated there only, and the headquarter is in Vienna. Fine. Group of 20, G20 is also important. 1999 it was established. What is the aim here? Aim is simple, to address the issues concerning the global economy and financial stability. Its members, they are over two-thirds of the global population, and ultimately, when we talk about all the important names which you should remember, at least not all 20 if you can remember, just remember the important ones. We have Australia, China, Germany, India. So India is a member, always remember. And then we have Japan, Korea, Republic of Korea is there. Then Russia is there, UK and US along with European Union. Right? These are the important members which you should remember, must remember. Then comes BRICS. From here, the question was asked last time. So 2009, it started its operation, and ultimately the original members were Brazil, Russia, India, and China. These were the four members who started this organization. Then it expanded its operations, and ultimately South Africa also joined, forming it BRICS. Right? Earlier it was BRIC only. It represents over 40% of the world's population and roughly 37% of the global GDP. So 40% of world's population thanks to India and China in this group. So further expansion has also been done, and this makes this particular organization very important for this year exam also. Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran is there. Then we have Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Indonesia. All have joined with several, including Indonesia joining as a member, while others as partner countries in 2025. Now, next, let's just talk about the Panchamrit commitments. Which of the following statements is not correct regarding the India's Panchamrit commitments to combat the climate change? Combating climate change. India aims to achieve net zero emissions by 2070. India will fulfill 50% of its energy requirements from the renewable energy sources by 2030. India will increase the carbon intensity of its economy by more than 45% by 2030, or India will achieve 500 gigawatt non-fossil energy capacity by 2030. What is the right answer here? Not correct. You have to tell me the incorrect ones. Net zero emission, yes, 2070. Fulfill 50% of energy commitments requirements from the renewable energy sources by 2030. That is also correct. It will increase the carbon intensity. No, it will decrease. Fine. India is pushing to decrease the carbon intensity. Right. C is the right answer. So what are the Panchamrit commitments? We have achieving the net zero emission by year 2070, achieving 500 gigawatt non-fossil energy capacity by 2030, then fulfilling the 50% of energy requirements from renewable energy sources by 2030, and then we have India will reduce the total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons from now towards onwards till 2030. By 2030, you will find India will reduce the carbon intensity of its economy by less than 45%. So all these small facts, percentages, years are important. How you can remember? The first one being 2070, others are directly related to the expiry of SDGs, that is 2030. Fine. Yes, yes, good. Everybody is with C. That is good to know. Fine. Apart from that, when we talk about the climate action as India and SDGs 13, drastic improvement we have seen 13 points in overall composite score. The goal 13, as we call it, the SDG 13 talks about climate action only. From 54, we have moved upwards towards 67 in SDG 13. And where we have moved in the SDG India index, which was formed by your Niti Aayog. Then, which of the following statements about the green bonds in India is correct? So, green bonds simply you have to tell that what all statements are correct here. Green bonds in India have only been issued by private corporations since 2007. So, no involvement of government. So, then what about the sovereign bonds, right? Sovereign green bonds are issued by governments to raise the resources for sustainable projects. Most green bonds in India have maturities less than 3 years or more than 3 years. Union Budget 2022-23 banned the issuance of green bonds. What will be the correct answer? Whether they have banned or for that matter they have given a heads up that yes, you can go ahead with the issuance of green bonds. So again, yes, the correct answer stands at option B. The sovereign green bonds, they are issued by the government to raise the resources for sustainable projects. Fine. So when we talk about these projects, very important for our country, for the climate of our country, and ultimately the green commitment of our country also will be fulfilled via these projects. B is the correct answer. Good. So green bonds, what you have to remember, India started issuing the green bonds since 2015, and the concept started in UK. Fine, UK 2007, but in India it started in 2015. India's transition to low carbon economy, that was the tagline with which we started the issuance of green bonds. Most of the green bonds have maturity of 5 years or above, but less than 10 years. So 5 to 10 years, that's what you have to remember. SGBs, they are issued by the governments to raise the resources for such projects. In addition to the corporate and the government, the World Bank has issued green bonds towards several projects also. So mark this highly important. World Bank has also issued the green bonds in our country. Then Union Budget 2022-23 announced the issuance of the sovereign green bonds, and ultimately data of 2023 directly tells us that the market of green bonds in our country stands at 21 billion US dollar. An important number which we should remember. Then according to the amended law, what is the minimum penalty for a company failing to comply with the CSR provisions? Fine, failing to comply. Penalty will be levied. Fine. Now CSR obligations won't attract you any kind of imprisonment. Only penalty will be there, right? So 10 crore or twice for the company is the penalty. At least 1 crore or twice for the company. At least 2 lakh or 1/10 for each defaulting officer, whichever is less. Only a warning is issued, or 1 lakh for each defaulting officer, whichever is more. What is the correct answer here? At least 1 crore or twice for the company, at least 2 lakh or 1/10 for each defaulting officer, whichever is less, right? So correct answer is option B. Good. Everybody is with B, right? Yes, yes. Kiru, live test, live mock test for the English medium will also be available. I think it will be aired today itself, right? So if you want to attend the live mock, do attend. That will definitely help you. Okay, it is scheduled 5 p.m. Fine. At 5 p.m. today, you will be able to attend the live mock test, which we did in the bilingual classes also. So CSR, what all we have to remember, Section 135, Companies Act 2013, and it provides the legal support for the CSR. Schedule 7 provides the overall direction for the CSR efforts. Fine. Overall direction how the CSR activities must be there fulfilled in our country. CSR applies to every company, fine, every company, but with a threshold. What is the threshold? That in the preceding financial year, your net worth of more than 500 crore should be there, or you should have turnover of more than 1000 crore, or you should have net profit of more than 5 crore. If you fulfill any of these, your obligation of CSR will be there. So companies are now free to spend more than the mandated 2% of their net profit on the CSR in the last 3 years. So last 3 year net profit average you will calculate, and its 2% will ultimately be the CSR compliance amount. In July 2019, it has been made as a civil wrong only. No longer it stands as a criminal offense for non-compliance. Penalty is at least 1 crore or twice for defaulting company, and at least 2 lakh or 1/10 for each defaulting officer. These were introduced in 2020, whichever is less. Replace the imprisonment clause, now only a civil wrong. Next, we have the poverty elevation also, very important data which we should remember. According to the World Bank, if a person is living on $3 a day or less, then he or she is living in extreme poverty. Directly, this is what they will ask you in the examination. What is the threshold? That is your $3 per day. Okay. Just give me a moment. Let me just check the sound. Hello, hello. Now is it okay? Hello. I think now it should be fine, right? Okay. So poverty elevation, the data you must remember. Jobless growth also is very, very important in case of the data when we talk about. Overall, the jobless growth, why the phenomena was in news, because one of the private firm, ORF, they released the data stating that India is no longer having the jobless growth. Right? So contrary to the claims of jobless growth, data shows that employment in India has increased by 36%, and overall the average rate has in the GDP grew at an average rate of 6.5%. So we have a conclusion that there is an increase in the employment levels as well as there is an increase in the GDP numbers, which states that there is no longer a jobless growth. We have jobs as well as growth. So this 36% is very, very important. According to the Research and World Inequality Report, what percentage of India's national income is earned by top 100% of the population? Top 100%. 13%, 22%, 57%, or 50%? What is the right answer here? Yes, so the right answer is your option C, 57%. We have to remember top 10% of the population, they have 57% of the wealth accumulative within themselves. So World Inequality Report, India is now one of the world's most unequal country. A very you can say uh, contrasting numbers for our country as compared to some other countries. Top 10% of the population earns 57%, and the very elite 1% they earn 22% out of the top 10%. In comparison, the percentage of national income earned by the poorest 50% has fallen to 13%. All these small data, they are very important. Which of the following statements is are correct regarding the economic planning and 5-year plans in India? So the plan holiday was observed between 66-69. Yes, there was a plan holiday. What was the second plan holiday? Anybody who can tell me? During the eighth plan, the target was 5.6%. Actual growth was 6.7%. Yes, thanks to the LPG reforms. Some banks were nationalized during the fourth plan. Yes, 14 banks were nationalized. Planning Commission was not a statutory entity. Yes, exactly. That is also correct. There was specific emphasis on industrialization in second plan. In the second plan, you will find that there was an emphasis on the industrialization. Second plan started off with a single agenda itself, right? So what is the right answer here? Yes, D is the right answer. All of the above, right? All these are the right one. D is the correct answer. Okay. Economics as the study of wealth and wealth including man, they are the two major definitions of economics. Who were the proponent of these definitions respectively? So when you talk about wealth and wealth including man, we have the social welfare angle also. So wealth was Adam Smith, wealth including man, the social welfare angle, it was given by Alfred Marshall, right? So the right answer comes out to be option C, Adam Smith and Alfred Marshall. C is the right answer. Now, quickly try to answer these questions. These are fairly simple questions, but often repeated in the examination, right? Okay. So the commodities whose demand rises with the increase in prices ultimately are rising, and demand is also rising, which are inferior in compared to the luxury items and are exception to the law of demand. What will be the right answer for such type of commodities? We know them by which name? For the previous question, yes, C is the right answer, right? It was C. For this question, which are inferior, fine. The goods which are talking about, they are inferior in compared to luxury items. I have seen many students getting this wrong, fine. But today, let's just hope that every one of you, you are giving the right answer. So Giffen goods, Veblen goods, luxury goods, or supplied goods. Giffen goods, that is the inferior goods, fine. So the right answer is option A, Giffen goods. Okay. Veblen goods are already luxury items, fine. But we are talking about what? In comparison to the luxury items which are inferior, that those are known as your Giffen goods. Yes, yes. NNK7249. Good. Now let's just talk about one question based on the money supply. Based on the different measure of money supply, suppose the following data is provided for Indian economy. You have to calculate M2. What are the formulas? Everyone, I hope that you have revised the formulas. Fine. Now the time has arrived where we must remember those formulas. So M1, M2, M3, M4. M1, M2, M3, M4. M1 is equal to what? It is currency with public, or this one, currency with public, plus the demand deposit, plus other deposits with the RBI. That is your M1. Then comes M2, which is equal to M1 plus the saving deposits in the post office, fine, post office saving. Then we have M3, wherein we will be adding M1 with the time deposit. And lastly, we have M4, wherein M3 will be added with the all deposits of post office except for NSC and Kisan Vikas Patra. These are not included. Okay. So what is the right answer here? M2 you have to calculate simply currency with public plus demand deposit plus other deposits with RBI. So currency with public, demand deposit and other deposits with the RBI. You have to add this with the saving deposit of the post office. M1 plus saving with, yes, yes, good, good. Gopal Jay is absolutely right. What is the right answer here? So 1.2 lakh plus 2 lakh plus 3 lakh, so 5 lakh, 6.2 lakh, and here 7.2 lakh. D is the correct answer, right? Everyone? NNK is also with D. Yes, D is the correct answer. Okay, so formulas are very, very important. Try to use the calculator if you feel so, but this was a fairly simple calculation, we can say. Which of the following does not relate to same group of variables considered as income in the factor of production? Fine. In the factor of production, we are talking about the same group of variables. They are not related to money, wages, rent, and interest. This question repeatedly they have asked. Fine, repeatedly. Money, wages, rent, or interest. So money we don't have as such. Fine. When you talk about the factor of production, we have wages, rent, interest, and profit. Right? Money is not there. So A is the right answer. Yes, A is correct. Good. Then we have the factors of production. What all factor of production we should remember for the exam? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. And in case of your income, we have rent, wages, interest, and profit. Yes. Okay. So these terms, these particular components you should remember. They will ask one question based on this for point five marker. They can ask direct question. Okay. Yes, yes. Everybody is with it. That is good to know. In a small village in rural India, most low income families depend mainly on the rice as their staple food. Fine. So the staple food is rice itself. When the rise of the prices happen, the price rise of the rice happens, instead of reducing their consumption, these families they start buying even more rice and cut down on other costlier food items like vegetables, pulses. They will be reducing their consumption there. This happens because rice, despite becoming expensive, remains essential for their survival and takes a larger share of their limited income. So this situation is best represented by which of the phenomena in the economics? Normal good, inferior good, given good, or complementary good? We are talking about which type of good here? We are talking about given good, right? C is the correct answer. Yes, yes. Girish and Parul Murugeshwari is also there. We see. Good, good. Now comes the most difficult topic, the most dreaded topic of all, ISLM framework. This time I want everyone to reply. Fine. The correct answer. The ISLM framework, if Indian government increases its spending on infra projects, which of the following is most likely to occur? So when we have the ISLM framework and government is doing something, fine, fiscal expansion is happening or contraction is happening, then out of ISLM, IS will shift, fine. And where it will shift, it depends upon the particular task with which government has infused the money, or for that matter, it has increased the taxes, right? So whenever the government increases its spending, it infuses the money. So IS curve will shift towards right. Which of the following is most likely to occur? So one thing is sure, IS curve will shift towards right. What about the other things? Everyone. Okay, okay. So everyone is with C. Fine. IS curve will shift towards right, leading to higher interest rate and higher output. Output, the national output, GDP numbers will also grow. Good job, guys. C is the correct answer. Fine. So the expansion you will see income, supposedly the income levels or the GDP numbers, initially they were Y1. Once the infusion occurs, you will see good amount of income is increased from Y1 to Y3. But at the same time, your equilibrium point will also shift. So from E1, it shifts to E2. And after that, at a point, it will shift to E3 as well. Fine. So like that, the shifting will happen. But initially, what happens from Y1 to Y2, you find that the equilibrium point shifts to from E1 to E2. And when you map it with the interest rate, you will find that from I1, the interest rates have risen to I2. So increased interest rate, increased GDP numbers, and increased infusion of money by the government. So what you have to remember for ISLM, IS curve talks about the goods market. Fine, we are talking about the investment and savings equilibrium. If you want to have any commodity added here, you will actually have to produce it. Fine, you cannot just say that I will increase the rate of interest in the market or decrease in the rate of interest in the market. If there is a shortage of potato, even if RBI raises or decreases the repo rate, it won't impact. Fine, why? Because potato belongs to goods market. Then comes your LM curve, which is for the money market. Here, rate of interest directly you have any kind of alteration, you will see the impact on the LM curve, the money market, right? Then what else we have to remember? The metrics. This matrix is highly important, specially designed for all of you so that in the examination you don't get confused. So there are two types of policy, fiscal and monetary, and two types of ways of implementing these policies. Either you will be expanding the economic policy or contractionary policy will be there. So if there is expansionary fiscal policy, always remember in the fiscal policy, which curve will shift? It will be IS. And in case of your monetary policy, which curve will shift? It will be your LM, because money market talks about the money supply and government spending directly impacts the goods market. So yes, this is the first thing which everybody must remember. For the fiscal curve, for the fiscal policy, IS curve will shift. For the monetary policy, you will be having LM curve will be shifting. So expansionary fiscal policy is there. So IS curve will shift and it will shift towards right. And what will be the impact? Increase in the GDP, increase in the rate of interest. When there is contractionary fiscal policy, again, IS will shift because of the fiscal policy and it will shift towards left, decreasing both the GDP numbers and the interest rate, right? Both things will decrease. Then comes your expansionary monetary policy, fine. Expansionary monetary, LM will shift towards right, fine, because we are talking about the monetary policy. And GDP impact on the GDP will be, it will increase, and ultimately the interest rate will decrease because of the expansionary monetary policy. You always remember, whenever RBI implements the expansionary monetary policy, you will find that the rate of interest is lowered. Fine. Once the interest is lowered, you will find that the loans are cheaper and ultimately it will increase the consumption of the people. Impact on GDP will be that it will increase. Contractionary monetary policy, we always find that the RBI raises the repo rate, sells the bonds, and ultimately LM will shift towards left. The impact on GDP, it will decrease, and the reason is your increased rate of interest. Fine. So all these things are very, very important for our exam. Do not miss out on this particular table. You can easily secure 1 to 2 marks from this particular table itself. Now let's just talk about the SDF and reverse repo rate. Which of the following statements best describes the key difference between the standing deposit facility and the reverse repo rate in India's monetary policy framework? So monetary policy framework, always remember all the monetary policy tools are very, very important for the exam. Right? The tools are also very important. Yes, yes, not an issue, Gopalji. Right? I hope that everyone will remember that metrics, because ultimately in the examination you won't be able to visualize the curve, or for that matter plot any kind of curve. But this is very important, and you will retain the matrix. Which of the following statements best describe the difference between SDF and reverse repo rate? So SDF is used by RBI to inject liquidity or absorb. Fine, both are there to absorb. SDF is unsecured facility for the banks to park excess liquidity, while reverse repo rate is a secured facility where the banks park with the RBI using the government securities as collateral. Currently, SDF rate is lower than fixed reverse repo rate. No, it is higher. Fine. So fixed reverse repo rate. Can anybody tell me what is the fixed reverse repo rate? Both SDF and reverse repo rate, they serve the same purpose of absorbing the liquidity, but SDF is for long-term liquidity management. Reverse repo rate is for overnight purposes. What is the right answer? Correct answer is option B itself. SDF is unsecured and your reverse repo is a secured facility. Fine. In both these, you will find that banks are parking their funds. So the point of difference, very, very important. Collateral for the SDF not required. For reverse repo rate, it is required, and mostly the collateral will be government securities. Purpose is same, fine, to absorb the excess liquidity. Availability, available to all the LAF participants, the liquidity adjustment framework participants, the participants who obey or abide by the repo operations, repo rate. Reverse repo rate, it is available to the banks. Interest rate set 25 basis points below the policy repo rate. And what is the policy repo rate right now, which we have to remember for the exam? Based on that, can anybody tell me the actual SDF right now? A separate rate, that is your reverse repo rate, historically used to be the LAF corridor's floor. But now we have the SDF in its place. Your SDF acts as the floor of your LAF corridor, and reverse repo rate was previously the floor of LAF corridor. Yes, good, good. 3.35 is the fixed reverse repo rate right now. And what about your SDF? The NK Singh committee was formed to review the FRBM Act. Fine. Now let's move on to FRBM Act also. Which of the following was the recommendation of this committee? So 5.25 minus 0.25. Fine. Yes, yes, SDF 5. Good, good. It's really good to see that most of you, yes, yes, all the consistent students are here again and answering. Good, good. That is good. Yes, yes, 5, 5. Encasing committee. Let's move to this topic now. So, what is the important point in the encasing committee? Which of the following was key recommendation? Increase the deficit? No, decrease. We have to decrease 3%, right? To completely abolish all the fiscal targets? No, fiscal deficit targets are to be met. Fine. Introduce debt to GDP ratio target along with gradual reduction of your fiscal deficit. Yes, C is the right answer. Debt to GDP ratio. Always remember, in case of FRBM Act, two things are very important. First, the purpose, that fiscal deficit was not at all under our control. So, in order to make it under control, this particular act was passed by the parliament. And secondly, it provided one important point, that we must introduce one debt to GDP ratio. Fine, a target must be there assigned to your central government and gradually to the state governments as well. Encasing committee was ultimately in the favor of introducing the debt to GDP ratio, continuous monitoring of the state's government as well. According to the section 45ZB of the RBI Act 1934, what is the primary purpose of MPC, Monetary Policy Committee? Primary purpose we are talking about. So to regulate the banking sector in India, to manage the government's fiscal deficit, to maintain price stability while keeping them in mind your objective of growth, or for that matter, advise RBI on the matters related to forex. What will be the right answer? Specific sections, two sections are important. One is section 45ZB, another is 45ZN. These both are very, very important. So what about ZB? Yes, option C is correct. To maintain the price stability, keeping in mind the objective of growth, price stability. What about the ZN? Anybody who can tell me? By what year was the CRR brought down to 4.1 from 15% in 1991? So based on the recommendation, the Simam Committee's recommendation, we saw gradual reduction of CRR. But by which year the reduction was implemented? Whether 97, 91, 2003 or 1995. Years are very, very important. Fine. Always remember. They will ask you the questions from the years. Inflation target accountability. Yes, good, good. So for this particular 45ZN, the inflation target you have to meet. Otherwise, accountability will be set. So 4.1 from 15% by the year in the year 2003 only it was brought down. 2003 C is the right answer. So what about the policy rates which we have to remember for our exam? It is 5.25 the repo rate, then SDF 5%, MSF 5.5%, bank rate 5.5%, fixed reverse repo rate stands at 3.35. Only once after COVID this rate was changed. Apart from that, no change whatsoever. Then reserve ratios, CRR 3% and SLR also 18%, which we have to remember. Fine, only these rates you have to remember for your exam. So no more confusion. Simply remember these particular policy rates. In which phases of business cycle the following characteristics are observed? Various characteristics are mentioned. You have to tell me that which particular phase of business cycle talks about these characteristics. Yes, yes. C for the previous one. An extremely low aggregate demand in the economy causes activity to slow down. Right? So activity will slow down ultimately, and we will be having which type of phase here? Either it will be recession or depression. Fine, that is the phase. But when we talk about extremely low aggregate demand, understood that we are talking about either the recession or depression, but extremely low talks about the depression phase. From the first statement itself, you can answer this question. Let's just still try to see the second and third statement. But in the actual exam, I highly recommend everyone, if you are very sure about the first statement you read, just mark the correct answer and go to the next question, save time. Inflation is comparatively lower. Yes, there is same phenomena in the depression phase. Employment avenues begin to close, forcing the unemployment rate to rise rapidly. Fine, unemployment rate definitely will rise rapidly. Correct answer is option B, your depression phase. Fine, from extremely word only you can answer this particular question. Fine, so have that confidence also while attempting the questions. Yes, yes, good. B is the right answer. So next we have the government increase ISLM framework. We have seen which of the following statements correctly matches an economist with the core concept of his definition of economics. So economics definition, point 5 marker. They ask this question often. So try to answer the particular question here. Definition of economics. Various economists have given different types of definitions. So Adam Smith, Alfred Marshall, Lionel Robbins, and J.M. Keynes. These are the ultimate, you can say, economists which are being written here. So scarcity definition, or for that matter, your welfare definition, wealth definition. So wealth definition was given by whom? Adam Smith. Then welfare definition by Alfred Marshall. Also, scarcity definition was given by whom? Lionel Robbins. Right? These are the three. Correct answer to this question will be what? Adam Smith is associated with scarcity definition? No. Lionel Robbins was. Alfred Marshall is associated with the welfare definition. Alfred Marshall, welfare definition, yes. Viewing the economics as study of human action in relation to material well-being also, right? So B is the correct answer. Lionel Robbins is associated with the wealth definition. No, Lionel Robbins was associated with scarcity definition. J.M. Keynes is associated with welfare definition. J.M. Keynes was not there at all. Fine. So B is the right answer. Okay. Fine. The consumer price index CPI for India was 120 points at the end of 2023. Let's just assume that this was the scenario. And when we talk about the financial year for your next data, it is 2024. It has increased to 132 points at the end of 2024. Based on these figures, what was the annual CPI based inflation rate for 2024 financial year? So when I talk about the CPI numbers, how we calculate, right? CPI numbers will be calculated from the basket. We won't be able to calculate. There's a separate formula which the economists in our country under the MOSPI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, they apply that formula and give us the index. We can apply the inflation formula. Fine. So CPI index is given to you. The index number, that is your 120 and 132. So the present, that is 132. Subtract with the previous years, divide by the previous years, multiply by 100. You will get the inflation rate. Fine. Inflation rate. Okay. So what is the right answer here? 12 divided by 120 multiply by 100. So the correct answer stands at option B, 10%. Fine. 10% is the right answer. So this is what? 12 divided by 120 multiply by 100. This is 1 by 10. This goes, we have 10% as the right answer. B is the correct answer. Now let's just talk about the budget. There was a question in November 2025, and many students have asked me to go through this process once when we are revising. So which question was that? We'll be looking into that also, but let's just quickly see that what budget entails too. So budget simply has two accounts, revenue account and capital account. Revenue account is the account for all those expenditure, or for that matter, all those receipts which the government receives within 1 year, fine, short term. And for more than 1 year, all those receipts, expenditure will be done or will be coming into the capital account, fine. That is the prime difference between these two accounts. Revenue account, we have revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. These two components will be there. And similarly for the capital account also, one will be revenue, another will be the expenditure. But in the revenue receipt, since we know that taxes form the majority of the component of your revenue in the revenue account, so a separate, you can say, portion has been dedicated to the tax receipt itself. The remaining portion is for the non-tax receipt. Apart from the taxes, whatever the receipts are there. Capital revenue also has two components. One is debt creating, another is non-debt creating. Debt creating, you have the borrowings here. Fine, you have borrowed from XYZ organization, XYZ country. Now the particular amount will be reflected in your capital account more than 1 year. It's not like that today you have borrowed 500 crore from World Bank and within 1 year you will be paying them back. No, gradually you will pay, fine, over a period of time. So it will create a debt, an obligation will be there on India. But when we talk about the non-debt clearing, non-debt creating uh, capital revenue, we will be having one important thing, that this particular non-debt creating will not have any kind of obligation over the country, right? So yes, these are the important components which you should remember. And why we are studying that? Because we have to attempt one question. Fine. Why are these concepts? While revising these concepts only, we will be able to answer that question. So another important part is the deficit formulas. So revenue deficit simply it talks about the revenue account only. Fine. Budget has two components, but revenue deficit is concentrated only upon the revenue account. So it will be talking about the total revenue and total receipt. No, only about the revenue expenditure and the revenue receipt. Fine. So the formula comes out to be your total revenue expenditure minus total revenue receipt. Fiscal deficit, on the other hand, gives you a holistic picture. So it will be talking about revenue account as well as capital account. Both the accounts will be there. So the formula stands at total expenditure minus total revenue. But in this revenue, you have to exclude the borrowings first. Fine. Exclude the borrowings, then subtract it with the total expenditure. Then another formula, first formula is this, second formula is fiscal deficit, third formula is effective revenue deficit. Simply in the revenue deficit part, you have to subtract grants in aid. We get the effective revenue deficit. Fourth important formula, primary deficit. It is simply the difference between fiscal deficit and interest payments, right? Now, this was the question which was asked in November 2025, right? So deliberately I have given you this particular question in this particular resolution itself, because in the examination also this was the resolution, right? So when we talk about this particular budget at glance list, fine, this is just a budget at glance wherein we are having revenue receipts, capital receipts, fine. And why the different receipts are there? Because of the two different accounts, revenue and capital account. In the revenue receipt, you have the tax revenue and non-tax revenue. In the capital receipt, recovery of the loans will be there, other receipts and the borrowings are there, fine, which are creating what? They are creating the debt. So the total receipt will be what? 1 plus 4. Total receipt will be 1 plus 4. Revenue plus capital receipt. That will be your total receipt. Then comes your total expenditure. So expenditure will be what? 10 plus 13. All these will be added in your total expenditure on revenue account, of which interest payments, grants in aid for creation of capital asset, and on the capital account. Fine. All these expenditures, whatever we have done, will be adding them, and total expenditure will be there. So revenue accounts expenditure, capital accounts expenditure, interest payments, grants in aid, everything is included in the total expenditure. Now comes the effective capital expenditure. Effective means what? Which you will be actually doing, right? Capital expenditure. It will be 12 plus 13. Grants in aid for the creation of the assets, capital assets, long-term assets, plus the on capital account, long-term transactions. Right? So 12 plus 13. Revenue deficit, just now we have seen the formula. What is the formula? Revenue expenditure minus the revenue receipts, right? So 10 minus 1, here it is written. So what is 10 here? 10 is your on revenue account expenditure, fine, minus the ultimately one, that is your revenue receipt, fine. Only we are talking about the revenue part of the expenditure, fine. So 10 minus the revenue receipt, fine, that is your revenue deficit, fine. Then effective revenue deficit 15, that is your revenue deficit, minus 12. What is this 12? 12 is your grants in aid, fine. So you subtract revenue deficit from the grants in aid, you get the effective revenue deficit. Then comes fiscal deficit, the formula which we have seen just now. It is what? That you have to calculate the total expenditure, right? So total expenditure is in ninth, that is the ultimate expenditure, minus you have to subtract the entire, uh, you can say, entire revenue component, fine. So entire revenue component talks about 1 plus 5 plus 6. So we have 1 as the revenue receipt, then we will be adding it with 5, that is the recovery of loans, and other receipts, that is 6. 1 plus 5 plus 6. Now you must be thinking, why not just to add the fourth one with the first, right? Directly capital receipt? No, because we have seen in the fiscal deficit you have to exclude what? Exclude the borrowing. So this will not be added. Okay. So that is your fiscal deficit. And lastly, the primary deficit will be what? Once you have the fiscal deficit, subtract it with what? 11th, that is interest payments. Okay. So I hope that after this particular analysis, whatever question is there based on the budget at glance, you will be able to solve, because you have to simply apply the formulas, fine. And for each, whether it is actuals estimates, revised estimate, budget estimates, whatever they are asking you, for whichever column they are asking you, you will be able to answer if you know the formula. Okay, so how to read the entire budget at glance, how to read these small things, I hope that now everybody knows. Okay, the same is simplified here for all of you. So when you get the PDF, you can read it properly, fine. This was not readable, but yes, this is much more readable. Okay, fine. Here we have seen this also, that percentage of GDP, what is that, fine. So like the deficit as a percentage of GDP, there is a number, right? So that is also given in your PDF. So you can download the PDF from the virtual library and directly you can go through this particular table as well, which is a similar table, fine, but with a better resolution. Okay, now let's just talk about the section 28. Which statement is correct concerning the recovery of value for lost or stolen notes? We are moving towards module C now. In the module C, various things are important, but the most important is the section, right? Section number, very important. So section 28 talks about what? Every citizen has a legal right to recover the full value of the stolen note. Central government decides the value without consulting the RBI, or no person is entitled to recover the value as a matter of right, but RBI may prescribe, right? RBI may prescribe some circumstances for the refunds, but with government's sanction. C is the correct answer, right? C is right. Yes, yes. Girish and Murugeswari with C. Yes. What about others? I want everybody to answer, right? These questions are actually those questions from where which have been already asked, fine, in the examination. So section number, or for that matter, the circumstances, both ways the question can be asked, fine. They can also ask you like that according to which of the following sections no person is entitled to recover the value as a matter of right. So section 28 will be the right answer. So both ways you have to remember. So section 28, recovery of lost, stolen, mutilated or imperfect notes. No person shall, as a matter of right, be entitled to recover from the central government or RBI value of any lost, stolen, mutilated or imperfect note of central government or bank note. Next, section 30. So we'll be having series of questions pertaining to RBI Act sections, so that we revise the sections as well in this particular session itself. What is the right answer here for section 30? So always remember in your mind that which type of section we are talking about. Fine, what section is there? So when you talk about section 30, what is the right answer? Correct answer is option B only. The central government can supersede the central board and entrust RBI affairs to a determined agency. Whenever we talk about the central government's observation that they feel that RBI has failed the obligation, and now the government must step in. So central government has this power under section 30 that they can supersede the central board of RBI altogether and entrust that RBI affairs, fine, all those affairs which are being handled by the central board, to some predetermined agency. Fine. So B is the right answer. Central government can dissolve the RBI entirely. No, that is not the power, at least which is not mentioned in the section 30. A very important point here to understand is that every time they ask the question based on the section numbers, you must answer in that way only. Fine. According to the section 30 itself, chances are there that one or two options will be there which might be true in the outside world, but in the world of that particular section, you have to answer. Okay. The central government must wait for Supreme Court order to intervene. No, not mentioned in section 30. Governor of RBI is automatically replaced by the finance minister. Cannot do that. Okay. Yes. Good. Good. B is the right answer. So section 30, powers of the central government to supersede the central board of RBI. If in opinion of the central government, RBI fails to carry out any of the obligations imposed on it by or under this act, central government may by notification of the Gazette of India declare the central board to be superseded. Fine. All these are important. Fine. All these observations are very, very important. You will be superseded by some agency, some type of agency which the government will determine. Fine. It may be group of economists, it can be some highly, you can say, recognized individuals also, some from the government as well. It will be determined by the government. Virtual library, the link is there in the description itself. uh, you can see the pinned link, the first link in the description. It is of virtual library. Okay. Directly you can download it from there. Right? Okay. Fine. So section 33, the assets of the issue department must consist of which of the following? So gold coin, gold bullion, foreign securities, rupee coin, rupee securities, or for that matter, only gold and Indian currency, private corporate bonds, real estate holdings, or we have fixed deposits in commercial banks and the foreign securities. What is the right answer here? Gold coin, gold bullion, foreign securities, rupee coins, and rupee securities. Right? A is the correct answer. Simple. Okay, not an issue. A is correct. So the assets of issue department, they shall consist of gold coin, gold bullion, foreign securities, rupee coin, rupee securities. These assets you should remember for the exam to such aggregate amount which is not less than the total of the liability to the issue department. Fine. So asset must be more than, fine. Normally it should be more than the total liability of the issue department. And in which form you have to keep the asset? Gold coin, gold bullion, foreign securities, rupee coin, and rupee securities. Then section 34 defines the liabilities of the issue department as being equal to what? We have seen the asset. Now let's move on to the liabilities also. Let's just try to answer the question. The total gold reserves held by the RBI, or for that matter, the total amount of currency notes of central government and the bank note currently in the circulation, that is the asset, or that is the liability. The total loans provided to the commercial banks, the value of all the forex transactions. So liability is only one, the currency notes as we call them, right? So the right answer is option B. The total amount of currency notes of the government and the banks currently in the circulation. Yes, yes, B is the right answer. Okay, so section 34 states that the liabilities are equal to the total amount of currency notes, both central government as well as the bank notes that are currently in circulation, right? So this is the correct answer. Which of the following was the first DFI, first development financial institution established in India? Whether it was ICICI, NAFID, ICICI, IFCI, the IFCI, or for that matter, NABARD. So they ask IFCI, often they have asked IFCI, and there is a reason also because that was the first DFI of our country. Okay, so C will be the right answer. And when you are revising in the module C, always remember that you must remember, try to retain the years of establishment, because from these years the questions will be asked, be it the chronological order based, or they will also ask you based on the year of establishment directly. Okay. Next, the SFCs, state financial corporations, were established at the state level following the passage of which specific act? Which act are we talking about here? Specific act, SFC Act 1948, 1951, 82 IDBI Act, or for that matter 1949 Banking Regulation Act. Yes, yes. So SFC established under your SFC Act 1951. B is the right answer. Good, good. Everyone must answer. That's why I am pausing here so that everybody gets a chance to reply. Which institution was established most recently among the following to support the infrastructure development in our country? Whether it was IDFC Limited, NHB, SIDB, or NABFID. What will be the right answer here? Most recently, we have the NAVFID specifically for infrastructure development. And anybody who can tell me that NAVFID has only developmental role or what? Because it is a DFI, Development Financial Institution. So it has only the developmental role or anything else also it can do. It can raise the money also from the market, have some profit also from the market, right? Okay, for this question, the right answer is option D. Good, good. Everyone is with D. That is good to know. Now let's just talk about some historical facts. Just try to understand, learn, remember the final time. First DFI 1948 IFKI. Then we have the SFCs, and they were set up after the passing of SFC Act 1951. ICICI 1955. Then we have LIC 1956. In between you will find IDBI also, which was 1964. NABARD 1981-82 you can call it, EXIM 1982, NHB 1988, and SIDBI was carved out of IDBI in 1989. Lastly, we have IDFC Limited 1997, and then we have the NAVFID, which is the current important as well as the latest DFI in the list. Okay, so there will be some DFIs who will be extending direct finance, fine, direct financing will happen. Some will be providing you the indirect finance, or for that matter refinancing institution as we call them. So we have SIDB, NABARD, NHB. All these are also the DFIs in our country, fine. The most important ones out of all these will be your SIDB and NABARD, very very important. So SIDB, the schemes are also very important, fine. The smile scheme, all those schemes are very important. Speed plus, fine. Under the Grameen Bank model, a standard borrowing group typically consists of how many members? How many members will be there in the Grameen Bank model? We are talking about the model which was started by Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh. Right? 2 members, 10 members, 5 members, or 15 members. So the right answer, Grameen Bank model, it is 5 members, right? C is the correct answer. So Grameen Bank model, the global pioneer of microfinance, Professor Muhammad Yunus, who was experimenting with the entire concept of Grameen Bank model back in 76 and ultimately established the Grameen Bank in 1983 in the Jobra village of Bangladesh, awarded the Nobel Prize in 2006. You will also find one important thing here. In this model, members of the group, they are also the owners of the bank, fine. So ultimately the feeling of repayment is not an obligation but a particular you can say sustainable model for their own company. That was the feeling which was imbibed by this Grameen Bank model. The group normally consists of 5 members. The liability to repay the loan lies with the individuals. Right? Loan is given directly on the basis of trust, and no agreement or any document is required here. 5M and owner. Yes, yes, 5 member and the owner will be there. 5 members will be the owners. Yes, that is correct. Good. Gangjong. Good, good. Which regulatory body is responsible for regulating the NBFC MFIs? In India, the most important, or for that matter, the most utilized type of MFIs is your NBFC MFI. Fine, forms the largest chunk of the market. So NABARD, RBI, MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, or Government of Andhra Pradesh. The correct answer, regulator, your RBI. Fine, B is the correct answer here. Fine. Then, which category of MFIs account for the largest portion of microfinance in India? Not for profit, mutual benefit, for profit MFIs, NBFCs as we call them, or cooperative societies? Yes, yes, RBI will be the right answer for this question. The largest portion we are talking about, for profit MFIs, NBFC MFIs, right? C is correct, right? Yes. So MFIs, what is the important criteria which we should remember for the examination? Their categorization. Fine. 3 types of categories are there. Not for profit. You just focus on the service. Fine. You're not concerned about the business as such. Then we have mutual benefit MFIs, which are having some kind of model wherein they will be benefiting all the members within a particular group mutually. Fine. Just like SHGs. Then we have for-profit MFIs, wherein business model will be there, but service will also be ensured. So not-for-profit MFIs, these are the societies registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860 or similar acts and trusts under the Indian Trust Act 1882, and also the Section 25 companies as we call them. Fine, all those NGOs will come here in this particular category only, not-for-profit companies. Then we have the mutual benefit MFIs. Here you will find the state and national cooperatives are there. Mutually aided cooperative societies, MAX, will be also there under the MAX Act itself, and which was enacted by Government of Andhra Pradesh in the year 1955. This question can be asked. They have never asked a question of MAX, but yes, the potential is there. So always try to remember such data which has not been asked in the previous examination, because they can ask you on 3rd of May. For profit MFIs and NBFCs as we call them, they are the non-banking financial companies which are registered under Companies Act regulated by RBI. Most of the microfinance in India, they are through MFIs that fall in this particular category itself. They form the largest category of MFIs, right? Largest category. Okay, which new category of NBFC was recommended by YH Mallegam committee specifically for the microfinance sector? Specific to the microfinance sector, which is the committee we are talking about here? YH Mallegam committee, and the recommendation was NBFC lending, NBFC MFI, micro, or for that matter, social. What was the ultimate agenda? NBFC formation, right? Always remember for the NBFCs, YH Mallegam committee, very, very important. Yes. So we are talking about the NBFC MFI. Fine. This is what was recommended by YH Mallegam committee, and that is the reason why I say that the entire recommendations of YH Mallegam committee revolutionized the microfinance sector for our country, because today NBFC MFIs, they form the largest chunk of the entire sector. Fine. So YH Mallegam committee, here you will find that the chairman was YH Mallegam, and ultimately the recommendations were creation of a separate category of NBFCs known as NBFC MFI. Also, you have to clearly define the microfinance loans which are classified as qualifying assets. So what are the qualifying assets? That question also will be solving here. Prescriptions related to pricing of the credit in terms of margin cap, transparency in trust charges must be there, measures to address multiple lending, over borrowing and coercive recovery method which led to Andhra crisis also, right? I hope some of you might remember the 2010 Andhra crisis thanks to the coercive recovery methods by the recovery agents, specifically to the MFIs. Establishment of a proper system of grievance redressal. Fine, proper system of grievance redressal must also be there. Then, what was the first statutory measure enacted to regulate the life insurance business in India? Whether it was Indian Insurance Companies Act, Insurance Act 1938, Indian Life Assurance Companies Act 1912, or Life Insurance Corporation Act 1956. So normally students they get confused that here though life assurance is written, so this is not related to insurance. No, it is related to insurance, right? It's just about the word which we have used as assurance, right? That does not mean that there is no relationship between this and insurance, right? So what will be the right answer then? It will be ILA. Yes, yes, good. So Indian Life Assurance Act, ILA Companies Act 1912. Good, good. What else we have to remember? That in 1914, Government of India started publishing the returns of insurance companies also, and the Indian Life Assurance Companies Act 1912 was the first statutory measure to regulate the life business. Fine, just to regulate the life business, life insurance business. In 1928, you will find Indian Insurance Companies Act was enacted to enable the government to collect statistical information about both life and non-life business transacted in India. And ultimately, the overall criteria, overall development of insurance sector happened after this act only. Now let's just talk about the acts. Fine, acts are very, very important in your module C. With reference to the history and development of the insurance sector in India, as provided here in the text, consider the following statements. Yes, yes, C will be the right answer. Good. The Insurance Act of 1938 was enacted to consolidate earlier legislation and provide comprehensive control over the insurers. Comprehensive control. The life insurance sector was nationalized via an ordinance issued in January 1956. So whether we have issued the ordinance in 56 or some other year, the years are very important. See, in the module C based questions, you will find that IIBF will ask you some other year, mostly what we have seen. Upon its creation, the LIC absorbed exactly 245 total entities, including the Indian insurers, non-Indian insurers, and provident societies. Yes. The LIC maintained its monopoly over the insurance sector until the late 1990s. What is the right answer here? So I think all these statements, yes, D is the right answer. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Third is also correct. 245 were there. So here the correct answer will be option D. Yes, D is absolutely right. So in 1938, you will find with the view to protecting the interest of public, earlier legislation was consolidated and amended by Insurance Act 1938, the first act which is still providing us with various inputs whenever we need, with comprehensive provisions for effective control over the activities of the insurers. Ordinance was issued on 19th Jan 1956, nationalizing the life insurance sector. Fine. 1956, a major year for our country, where the LIC was formed after the merger of your 245 different companies. Fine. So LIC absorbed all these companies. Number was 245, and since 1956 till the late 90s, fine, till the LPG reforms and the FDI limit was introduced, FDI was permitted in the insurance sector, only LIC was there when the overall, you can say 56 till 96 or 99 also, only LIC will be there. It maintained the monopoly in the insurance sector. Fine. Then next question is about the General Insurance Business Nationalization Act. Consider the following statements regarding the development of insurance sector in our country. The General Insurance Business Nationalization Act was passed in 1972, leading to nationalization of industry from 1st Jan 1973. The total of 107 insurers were amalgamated and grouped into five primary companies, five or four. The General Insurance Corporation GIC was incorporated in 1971 and commenced its business on 1st Jan 1973. What will be the right answer? So whenever we talk about the general insurance business, the GIB Act as we call it, and GIB GIB Act, it was passed in 72 and the nationalization was there. 107 insurers were amalgamated, that is correct, but they were grouped into how many categories? How many companies? Four companies, right? Not five, because GIC was separate then also. The GIC Corporation was incorporated in 1971, commenced its business on 1st Jan 1973. What is the right answer? Correct answer is option B. Second statement is wrong. 1 and 3, both statements are correct. Yes, B is the right answer. So 1972, the General Insurance Business Nationalization Act, you will find that it came into effect on 1st Jan 1973, and ultimately the amalgamation happened into four companies. What were those companies? Still we are having those companies: National Insurance, New India Assurance, Oriental Insurance, and United India Insurance Company. The General Insurance Corporation of India, it was incorporated as company in 1971 and it commenced the business on 1st Jan 1973. Okay, very very important day which we should remember, 1st Jan 1973. Fine. Then in 1993, the government of India set up to propose reforms in which of the following sectors? 1993, the government of India set up a committee headed by R.N. Malhotra. Right? R.N. Malhotra. Right? So, according to this particular question, what will be the right answer? Banking sector, insurance sector, telecom sector, or agriculture sector? The committee headed by R.N. Malhotra in the insurance sector. Fine. So B is the right answer. 1993 R.N. Malhotra committee we are talking about. So the process of reopening of insurance sector had begun in the early 90s and the last 2 decades witnessed substantial development owing to the liberalization measures. Fine. Liberalization measures will be there. In 1993, you will find that a committee was set up under the chairmanship of Shri R.N. Malhotra, the former governor of RBI, a very famous personality, I would say, to propose recommendations for reforms in insurance sector. 1994, you will find that the committee submitted its report and ultimately recommended that private sector must be permitted to enter the insurance industry, and that's the reason why the monopoly of LIC was gone. They stated that foreign companies be allowed to enter by floating the Indian companies, preferably the joint venture. Also, when you talk about the year 1999, the Insurance Regulatory and Development Act was constituted. Ultimately, a statutory body was formed, and April 2000, you will have the regulator, and ultimately, the insurance industry will be developed by that regulator, which is IRDAI. How do the DFIs differ from commercial banks in terms of their operations? If you know the basics that why the DFIs were formed when we already have the banks, then this is a fairly simple question. Fine. The basic idea. DFI mobilize short-term retail deposits? No, they are talking about the long term and not the deposits. Fine. They are for the loans. DFIs lend at high volatile interest rates. Yes, when you talk about they operate for the you can say timing which is not at all matched by the commercial banks. Fine. So long period of time will be there, but rate of interest you cannot just say that they are charging high volatile interest rate. DFIs provide long-term credit to avoid the maturity mismatch. No. Commercial bank focus exclusively on the social benefits. What will be the right answer? When you talk about the DFIs, they will be providing long-term credit only and they will be avoiding the maturity mismatch. What is this maturity mismatch? So when we talk about the long term credit, you require long term funding also, fine, to sustain that long term credit. So if there is a maturity mismatch, means your long-term credit cannot be sustained because you don't have fund. Then there is a deadlock, and that was the deadlock which was there with the commercial banks, and that is the reason why we have the DFIs in our country. Why we introduced the DFIs basically in our country. Now, though commercial banks are also performing such operations via the project financing. Okay. Right answer is option C. Fine. C is correct. Which of the following institutions were established in 1948? 48, simple. SIDBI, IDBI, IFCI or NABARD? IFCI was established in 1948. C is the right answer. Then why did DFIs like ICICI, IDFC eventually transform into universal banks? Fine. Why do we call them as universal banks? And what was the reason? Universal banks means that they can do anything. Earlier, only lending was there. The banks were doing the deposit. So lending was with the DFIs, the big lending, the long-term lending. But once you are transformed into universal banks, you are lending for the long-term projects also. Fine. Ultimately, everything is done by the banks. Yes, yes. Good, good. Okay. So ICICI and IDFC ultimately they transformed into universal bank. What was the reason? They had too much low cost funding. If they had, then why they will be transforming, right? They lacked the advantage of low cost funding for long term projects. Yes, B is the right answer. Right? Long term project, you need financing also. If you don't have the finances, how you will be sustaining, right? So B is the right answer. When was the NAFID bill approved by the President of India to become an act? This question will test us not only on the basis of the year, not only on the basis of month, but on the basis of the day also, the date itself. March 22nd, 2021, March 28, 2021, August 15, 1947, or January 26, 1960. What will be the right answer? The correct answer is option B. March 28, 2021. That is the date which you should remember for the NAFID. Okay, 28th. Fine. So NAFID, when you talk about the other DFIs, these we have seen. We'll be learning about NAFID also separately. But before that, another question from NAFID. Let's just see which of the following entities is not specifically listed as a potential shareholder of NAFID. So potential shareholder, mostly the companies are there. We are talking about the infra finance. So all those companies, the big fund houses will come and they will become the shareholders, right? So sovereign wealth funds, individual retail investors, pension funds, or multilateral institutions. What will be the right answer here? So multilateral institutions, they will be fine. The fund houses will also be there. Everyone except for the individual investors, right? Individual investors, they are not specified in the list. Fine. The list of investors, it is devoid of all these individual retail investors. Fine. So the right answer comes out to be your option B. B is the right answer. Establishment of NAPFID, a very important phenomena. Here we must remember all the important stakeholders. Fine. So the shares of NAFID may be held by the important ones being central government, then sovereign wealth fund, pension funds, insurers, and banks. The FIs will also be there. So multilateral institutions, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, insurers, FIs, banks, and any other institution prescribed by the central government. Another important criteria, NAFID will be set up as a corporate body, authorized share capital of 1 lakh crore. The initial corpus was this only 1 lakh crore. The central government will own 100% shares, which will subsequently be reduced to 26%. Okay. Now let's just talk about the UCBs, Urban Cooperative Banks. To be included in the second schedule of the RBI Act 1934, what is the current minimum net demand and time liabilities NDTL requirement for UCBs as per the 2003 amendment? Fine. So amendment was introduced in 2003. Earlier it was having some other number. In 2003 it was doubled. Fine. So whether it was 50, it became 50 crore, 100 crore, 200 crore or 500 crore. What will be the right answer here? Correct answer option C, 200 crore. Earlier it was 100 crore. It was made twice. Yes, yes, 200. Good, good. Urban cooperative banks, UCBs, they are included in second schedule of RBI. And when we talk about what is the criteria which they must fulfill to be listed in the second schedule, they must have NDTL at least 100 crore, which was later increased to 200 crore in 2003. What is the stipulated minimum net worth for the UCBs that fall outside the tier 1 single district category? See, such type of one or two words they will insert in the question statement, and it will make the entire statement going towards a different direction. Fine. So normally when we see these questions, we think that yes, directly we have to answer tier 1 single district category. But do not ignore this word. Outside the tier 1 means apart from tier 1 category, tier 2, 3, 4 category. Right? So what is the stipulated minimum net worth for the UCBs that are falling outside this tier 1 category? Whether it is 2 crore, 3 crore, 5 crore or 7 crore. The right answer is option C, 5 CR. Okay, C is the correct answer. So when we talk about the UCBs, urban cooperative banks, you will find that uh, this was ultimately the regulatory framework given by the RBI, and the revision was based on the basis of the recommendation of one important committee headed by N.S. Vishwanathan. So N.S. Vishwanathan, the former deputy governor of RBI, he provided that there must be some revision in the overall UCB framework, and minimum net worth of 2 crore should be there for the tier 1 UCBs operating in the single district, and 5 crore should be there for all the other UCBs of all the tiers which has been stipulated. The UCBs which do not meet the requirement will have to provide a glide path of 5 years with intermediate milestones to facilitate smooth transition. Fine. So when you talk about two important values, 2 crore for the tier 1, apart from tier 1, all will be having 5 CR as the minimum net worth criteria. According to the revised regulatory framework for the urban cooperatives notified by RBI in July 2022, which of the following statements regarding the capital to risk weight asset ratio CRAR is correct? So minimum CRAR requirement for tier 1 has been increased from 9% to 12%. Whether it is correct? Tier 2, 3 and 4 UCBs are required to maintain a minimum CRAR of 15% by March 31st, 2026. When you talk about the UCBs that do not currently meet the revised 12% CRAR for the tiers 2 to 4 must achieve a CRAR of 11% by March 31st, 2025. So glide path was given, and according to the glide path, various percentages were given for the CRAR. That for 2024 this should be the target, 24 the next target, 26 like that. Risk weights on the housing loans for all the tiers of UCBs are now determined by borrower's credit score rather than the LTV ratio. So LTV ratio is the basis, right? You cannot just ignore the LTV ratio. What is the right answer here? The correct answer stands at option C. UCBs that are not currently meeting the revised criteria of 12% for the tier 2 to 4, they must achieve it by gradually upgrading. So 11% should be there by 31st March 2025. So according to the recommendations of NS Vishwanathan committee, you will find that the minimum CRAR requirement for tier 1 was retained at 9%, no change whatsoever. But for tier 2, 3 and 4, it was revised to 12%. An important point to note. UCBs that do not meet this revised criteria, they will have to achieve via the gradual introduction, via the gradual upliftment of the CRAR. So 10% by 2024, 11% 2025, and 12% by 31st March 2026. And this is the reason why this year this question becomes very, very important, because just now we have passed this particular date. UCBs, all the tiers, they are required to assign risk weights on the housing loans on the basis of LTV ratio alone. Only basis is your LTV ratio. No CIBIL score, nothing. The risk weights we are talking about. This will be applicable to all the tiers of UCBs, and revaluation reserves will be considered for inclusion in tier 1 capital. Fine. You will be having some reserves which will be considered only for your tier 1 capital. Fine. Not the tier 1 banks. We are talking about tier 1 capital here. Fine. Tier 1 plus tier 2, the Basel norms. Fine. Now let's just talk about the regulation of primary dealership business. In the context of regulation of PD business undertaken by the banks in India, select the correct statements from the following. So we have some statements here related to the primary dealership. Try to answer the question. Primary dealership, right? Yes. So RBI will conduct on-site inspection of the bank PD business. The when we talk about the on-site inspection, it will be done. As banks have access to the LAF of RBI, banks PD will have separate access to the liquidity support as available to standalone PDs. Do you think so that bank PDs will be having a separate access? And when you talk about the standalone PDs, which are having a different kind of frameworks, since they are not the banks, they are just the subsidiaries, they will be having a separate one. Bank PDs will be required to submit the prescribed returns as advised from RBI from time to time. What is the right answer here? Correct answer is option C. This particular part, bank PD will have a separate access to the liquidity support. No, bank PDs are working within the bank. Fine, they are the departments within the bank itself. So no separate access to the liquidity support will be there. So when you talk about the regulation and supervision of the bank PDs. So RBI's instructions to primary dealers will apply to the bank PDs to the extent applicable. And when we talk about the ultimate instruction, as the banks have access to call money market refinance facility, liquidity adjustment facility LAF of the RBI, bank PDs will not have the separate access to these facilities and the liquidity support as available to the standalone PDs. That is why the second statement is incorrect. Fine. No separate access whatsoever. RBI will conduct on-site inspection of the bank PD businesses. Absolutely right. Bank PDs will be required to submit prescribed returns as advised by the RBI from time to time. A bank PD should bring RBI's attention to on many there are many major complaint against it, so that must be under the purview of RBI itself. Action initiated, what you have taken, what action you have taken by the authorities such as stock exchanges, SEBI, CBI, etc. Fine. So bank PD has this responsibility that they should bring to RBI's attention any complaint which is against the particular PD and it is of serious in nature. Fine. Which of the following risk can be minimized by diversifying the portfolio of investment in mutual funds? We are talking about the mutual funds now. Diversification. So liquidity risk, market environment risk, concentration risk, or interest rate risk. Which type of risk we can mitigate here? So the risk which can be minimized is your concentration risk, right? C is the correct answer when we talk about the diversification of your portfolio. So C is the correct answer. Market environment risk. What is the market environment risk? Simply when we talk about the advertisement, and remember the mutual fund advertisement, that the returns of the mutual funds are subject to market risk. We read all the documents carefully, like that one advertisement is there, na? That is the market environment risk, that anything can happen. Fine, nobody is certain that what will happen in the mutual fund market. So natural disaster, inflation, recession, political unrest, anything can happen, and ultimately you have the market environment risk with your investment attached. Market risk is also known as systematic risk. So another name is your systematic risk only. Then comes your concentration risk, which talks about what you should be able to understand, that concentration simply means focusing on one aspect, which could be one sector, one company, or one mutual fund. Every funds invested in one company, let's suppose Reliance Industries, tomorrow the company is not doing good, then what will happen? All your investment will go in vain. So that is the concentration risk. That's the reason why we say if you diversify your portfolio, the concentration risk will not be there. Then comes your interest rate risk. That is also important one. So it manifests itself more in debt mutual fund. Fine, because interest rate will be linked to that. Bond and debentures, they are fixed rate instruments, and increase or decrease in the market interest rate will lower or increase the price of the bond. Ultimately, it will lead to the profitability or the fall in price to the mutual fund also, and ultimately to the investors. Fine. So interest rate risk, always remember we are talking about the your debt mutual funds. Liquidity risk, again, when we talk about mutual funds like your tax saving ELSS, where the lock-in period is of 3 years, having the lock-in period ranging from 3 to 5 years, the lock-in period results in liquidity risk. The time for which the funds are being locked, there is no liquidity whatsoever. Fine. So the liquidity risk to the investor will be there, as he would not be able to sell the units without the loss in the tax benefits originally envisaged. Fine. So either you lose the tax benefit or you lose the liquidity. Then comes the credit risk. Simply, it means that the insurer of the scheme is unable to pay what was promised as the interest and principal and defaults. And when you talk about the credit risk, usually the companies in which the investments are done are rated by the CRAs. The ratings at best is just an advisory, fine, not a claim, or for that matter, not a certain thing. It is just an advisory that yes, whether this company will default or not. What are the chances there? Fine. Okay, now let's just talk about the bond valuation theorem. PDF for this is available in the virtual library. Once the session is over, we'll be uploading there. Okay, the link of virtual library is there in the description box. Okay, fine. So when we talk about this question, here a case is mentioned, and you have to tell that where the ultimate face value, the coupon rates will be giving us the input, fine, in which direction they are moving. So let's just try to solve this case, a very important case for our exam. This will give you confidence also that how to handle the big case studies. So a fixed income fund manager in the Mumbai is evaluating the impact of potential 75 basis points shift in the yield following an upcoming RBI monetary policy committee. The meeting is there, and ultimately the fund manager who is there in Mumbai is deliberating all those facts, that on the basis of that what will happen to the investments. The manager's portfolio currently holds three different government of India's dated securities. So G-Secs are there, right? Government securities are there, and ultimately these three will decide that what will be the fate of their own investment return. So we have one as alpha, then beta and gamma. These are just the names, fine, just to differentiate between the three. 9.0, so 9.00% GS 2029. You will find the maturity as 5 years here and coupon rate as 9%. Then we have 7.00% GS 2034, maturity as 10 years, coupon rate as 7%. 9.00% GS 2034, maturity as 10 years and coupon as 9%. Then all the bonds are currently trading at their face value of 1000, as the market yield is at par with their respective coupon rates. Fine. So face value is absolutely same, no difference whatsoever. Face value 1000 for all the three. The manager is now analyzing whether to hedge the portfolio against the rate hike or increase the exposure to benefit from the rate cut. Whether to go with the hike or, for that matter, cut the rate. Which of the following assessments regarding the price sensitivity and the behavior of these bonds is our most accurate? Fine, we are talking about the most accurate assumption, or for that matter, inference. So always remember that you are given some type of information for the government securities. Fine, maturity and coupon of three government securities is given, and you have to tell that what all will happen. Fine, out of these four scenarios, what will happen? So let's just write first the particular uh, numbers. Fine, so 9% is there for the alpha and 5 years is there. So alpha we have 5 years and 9%. Then we have beta and gamma. These are just the government securities, right? So beta 10 years 7%, 10 years and 7%. Then we have gamma 10 years 9%, 10 years and 9%. Now just try to answer the question. If the market interest rate increases by 75 basis points, fine, market rate of interest is raised. So what will be the impact on your bonds? Fine, ultimately your bond will lose its value because there are some other lucrative bonds. Bond alpha will experience the most significant price depreciation because shorter term bonds react more violently to immediate policy changes compared to long term bonds, which have already priced in the long term inflation expectation. So bond alpha, which is having a 5-year tenure, it will be experiencing more price depreciation? No. The longer the tenure, the more will be the price fluctuation. The more will be the price depreciation. Fine. So first statement is wrong because we have the beta and gamma with more number of years. Fine. The tenure between bond beta and bond gamma. These are the two bonds, beta and gamma. The bond gamma will show higher price sensitivity. Gamma will show higher price sensitivity, and gamma is having what? More interest rate, fine, the coupon rate to the interest rate movements, because higher the coupon results in larger cash flows. Higher coupon, larger cash flows, which proportionately increases with the impact which increases proportionately increases the impact of discount rate change on its present value as well, and it will change the present value also. So when we talk about the higher price sensitivity, it will be with the beta or gamma. If the market rate falls by 75 basis points, the resulting capital gain, the price increase for bond beta, will numerically be greater than the capital loss. The bond beta will suffer if the market rates were instead be increased by exactly 75 basis points. Absolutely correct. Which theorem are we talking about here? That no matter what is happening, your cumulative increase in the price will definitely give you the profitability, and that profitability will compensate for any kind of loss. Okay, so Anybody who can tell me that this statement C is correct, but according to which theorem we are talking about? C is right. Fine. D, let's just see D also, because bond alpha and bond gamma, they share the same coupon rate. They will experience an identical percentage change in price for any given moment in the interest rates, because we are having different tenure. They cannot give you the identical investment returns. Fine. So D is also wrong. Chinnai was very quick to answer as C as the right answer. I would highly appreciate, because this was a difficult question. Fine, you cannot call it a moderate or easy question. This was indeed a difficult question. You have to assess the ultimate description what is given in this question. Along with that, you have to remind yourself that what theorem, which theorem are we talking about. Fine. So A is gone, D is gone, B is also wrong. Correct answer is option C. Now let's just see why they are correct, or for that matter, what is the explanation here. So in the C statement, the theorem 2 we are talking about. According to theorem second, the increase in price of a bond when the interest rate goes down by certain percentage is anyhow greater than the decrease in its price whenever you find that the interest rate goes up. Very, very important point to understand theorem 2. Therefore, you will find that beta's gain from the 75 basis point fall will outweigh the loss. Fine. Okay, it will outweigh the loss for the 75 basis points rise. Then theorem 3, in the statement A, we are talking about the theorem 3 only. And theorem 3 simply states what? Longer the term of maturity, the higher will be the price sensitivity. But in the statement A, we were talking about what? Since bond alpha will experience, no, bond alpha is having the lowest tenure. So how come it will experience most fluctuation? It won't. Fine. What? Who will be having the most fluctuations? Beta or gamma, based on the theorem third. Then for the B statement, it is also incorrect. So theorem 4 is applicable there. Between the two bonds having the same maturity, fine, beta and gamma, they have the same maturity of 10 years, but different coupons. The bond will, with the lower coupon, will experience more price sensitivity. Fine, you will find more price sensitivity is there. Since beta has 7% and has a lower coupon than the gamma, both will have 10%, 10-year maturity, and bond beta will actually be having more price sensitivity. So more sensitivity towards less price sensitivity as compared to the bond gamma. Fine. Then comes your theorem third in the D statement. This is again incorrect because it ignores the maturity. In the D statement, it is mentioned that alpha and gamma, they share the same 9% coupon rate. Fine. They will experience the same identical percentage change in the price of any given moment. So no, they won't be having the same amount of change, experiencing the same change in the price. Why? Because of the simple reason that alpha and gamma, they have the different tenure. Right? So when you talk about theorem 3, it simply says that 10-year bond gamma will be significantly more sensitive. The longer the tenure, the more sensitivity will be there towards the market change. Okay. So these theorems you have to remember and memorize again and again. Theorem 1, the simple theorem, not asked in this question, but it is the simplest one. Inverse relationship exists between the rate and the ultimate price of the bond. Then we have second theorem, price increase when rate falls is greater than the price decrease when the rates rise. So whenever you witness that the prices are decreasing, do not worry. Ultimately, cumulative price increase of your bond will outweigh this particular loss. So conclusion is gain is always greater than loss. Then we have the third theorem, longer maturity bonds, they have higher price sensitivity. Always remember, more the number of years, the more you will have the price sensitivity. So supposingly there are two bonds, 2 years and 10 years. In the 2 years, the price falls from 1000 to 950. In the 10 years, price falls from 1000 to 850. So in both these, which will receive the higher price sensitivity? The longer maturity one, fine, because it has to stick to that particular price for a longer duration of time. So the cumulative effect, the net effect will be more prominent in the longer maturity bonds as compared to the shorter maturity bonds. Lastly, lower coupon bonds, the percentage now we are talking about, they have higher price sensitivity. Lower coupon, higher price sensitivity. When you talk about longer maturity, you have higher price sensitivity. Fine. So prices, they are directly proportional to the maturity period, that you can say, and the prices are inversely proportional to the coupon bonds. Fine. The ultimately coupon rates. Fine. They will be having more price sensitivity. Fine. Lower the coupon, higher the price sensitivity. So these theorems you have to revise again and again. And for your reference, I have added the examples also in order to make it easy to understand. Fine. Now let's just talk about this question, which is based on another case study. Okay, so I hope that the bond question is clear with everybody. Even still, if you have any kind of doubt in any of the options, do ask me, because that is a very tricky question. So here in this particular question, what they are asking simply, Arav and Ishani, they are living in Mumbai, and on 1st of April 2025, they both received a bonus of rupees 5 lakh. Fine. And now they are decided to invest the entire amount in the same equity mutual fund, similar equity mutual fund. However, they choose different schemes based on their individual needs. Fine. The individual needs are different, and ultimately they have chosen different schemes. Arav, the 30-year-old individual, he is software engineer with a steady salary, wants to build a corpus for the retirement 25 years away. He chooses the growth scheme. Fine, growth scheme is being chosen here. Ishani, 65 years old, she is a retiree looking for extra cash to cover her monthly utility bills and lifestyle expenses. She chooses a dividend scheme. Right. So growth scheme versus dividend scheme. In the growth scheme, you are not uh, taking out the interest on regular basis. You are just making it go compound. Fine. You want it to get compounded. But in the dividend scheme, what is happening? You are just uh, uh, giving yourself one particular amount on regular basis from your corpus, which you have given to the mutual fund only. Fine. So that is a dividend scheme. Regular payouts are there. 1 year later, based on the case study, why is RF's choice considered more tax efficient and better for wealth creation compared to Ishani's? What will be the right answer? RF's choice is considered more tax efficient, right? Because the dividend scheme charges a higher management fee to process the bank transfers. So bank transfers, we don't have any kind of criteria of bank transfers, right? In order to decide that the investment is good or not. Because the growth scheme allows the profit to stay invested and earn further returns via compounding, while the dividend scheme triggers an immediate tax liability on the payouts. As soon as the payout happens, the tax liability kicks in. But in the growth scheme, the profit you are investing, reinvesting, and again you are moving towards the compounding effect. Fine. So till now, B is the most apt answer, because the Indian government provides a special 50% discount on the NAV for investors. That is not at all possible, because the dividend scheme is only for debt funds, while which naturally have lower returns than the equity funds are of chose. So the same equity mutual fund is there, right? And when we talk about the explanation, or for that matter the description, they have just mentioned that different schemes are there. Which type of scheme is there, nobody has told us. Okay, the particular scheme's name is not there, the category is given, right? So D is also wrong. Correct answer is your option B only. Yes, good. Everybody is with B, that is good to know. Fine. So what is the learning from this question? No matter how big the question is, just try to start from the answers. Fine, answers means the options. Even if you don't understand the case study, let's just assume, you can definitely eliminate two options, A and C, directly, fine, without even knowing that what is mentioned in this particular case study. And it will definitely ease out your burden. Fine. So try to, go through the statements, the answer statements once the big question is there. Definitely it will help you in the actual exam also. And B is the right answer. So what is the difference between growth and dividend scheme? In the growth scheme, you will find that profit is reinvested, dividend, the paid out, it is paid out. Income, no regular income is there in the growth scheme, but in dividend scheme, regular income is earned. For the NAV movement, it increases over a period of time in case of your growth scheme. For the dividend scheme, falls after the payout. Compounding, yes, it happens in the growth scheme. Dividend scheme, no, it is not happening. Suitable for wealth creation, growth scheme is suitable because no payout as such. We are looking for the compounding effect. Regular income is there in the dividend scheme. So the right answer was option B. Now let's just talk about the lease. Which of the following statements best explains how the sale and lease back differs from direct lease and leveraged lease? Right? Direct and leveraged lease we are talking about. Type of lease. Let's just revise that concept also, because ultimately every concept we must remember. So lease, the important ones: finance lease, operation lease, fine, operating lease, very, very important. Try to answer this question. Yes, so in sale and lease back, the lessee acquires a new asset after the lease period. After your lease period is there, just like in a direct lease arrangement. Sale and lease back, what is happening? Quickly try to recall. In sale and lease back, you are doing what? Simply selling off your property, right? You need funds, you sell off your property. And now you are again leasing it back for the use, because you have to use, like the office space is there, fine. Earlier you were the owner, but now you are leasing it. So the lessee acquires the new asset after the lease period. Whether this is correct? In sale and lease back, the lessee is already the owner of the asset and sells it to the lessor, who then leases it back for the use. Right? In lease and sale and lease back, the lessor never takes the ownership of the asset at any stage of the agreement, any kind of stage whatsoever, no ownership. In sale and lease back, ownership of the asset always remains with permanently with your lessee. What is the right answer here? Yes, the correct answer is option B. Sale and lease back, simple. The lessee is already the owner and of that particular asset and sells it to the lessor, who will become the owner. Now they will lease it back. So B is the correct answer. So direct lease, lessor directly buys the asset and leases it to the lessee. And you are buying something and giving it to the other person, and the person will be having it on lease. Then we have like the bank buys machinery and leases it to the factory. Then we have leveraged lease. What is the leveraged lease? It involves three parties. One will be the lessor, lessee, and the lender is also involved. Very important. So a leasing company buys the aircraft partly using the bank loans. So the lender will be involved and then leases it. Right? So let's suppose that one aircraft airline is there, and that airline has uh, raised a loan of 500 crore to buy a fleet of aircrafts, and ultimately they will be doing what? There will be loan against them, but in the meantime, while servicing the loan, they will be leased to some other company who wants to fly them, right? So that this type of setup will be what? Leveraged lease. We are having the leverage here, right? Sale and lease back, simply owner sells the asset and then leases it back again. Fine. Which inference most accurately identifies the type and features of Amit's contract? So what kind of contract are we talking about here? Amit Khanna entered into a derivatives arrangement linked to equity shares after paying an upfront amount. An upfront amount has been paid. Now, the contract specified a strike price and an expiry date, but did not mandate the execution. Fine, execution is not there. As market prices fluctuated, Amit considered whether early action was possible or if he had to wait until the final day, fine, until the expiry or before the expiry also you can do. The counterparty remained bound to honor Amit's decision whenever permitted under the contract, fine. So the counterparty is having the foundation that whenever the contract permits, then only the funds will be there. The nature of the exercise timing and contractual obligation became the central issue. Fine. So we are talking about which kind of option. Various option. Two types of options are there. One is European, another is American, right? So the contract must be a European option because execution depends on fixed expiry date. That before this date, you won't be able to execute. The contract is an American option if it permits exercise at any time before the expiry, regardless of the market condition, any time, or for that matter, up till expiry day, you have to wait. Contract cannot be an option since early execution would eliminate the price certainty altogether. Price certainty. The contract is a futures contract because one party remains continuously exposed. In the futures contract, do you think so? Correct answer is option B only. Fine. We are talking option 2 or B. Fine. You can see B or 2 because this is 2 here. Na? Contract is an American option. Only when we talk about that it permits the exercise at a time, any time before the expiry, regardless of the market condition. Fine. So 2 is the correct answer here. B. Yes. Good. Good. So option B or 2 as we call it, it is correct because it is the distinguishing factor between the American and European option. And what is the distinguishing factor? Your timing of the exercise, fine, not the presence of the market uncertainty or for that matter continuous exposure. An American option, it simply allows the holder to exercise the right to buy or sell the underlying asset at any time on or before the expiry date, fine. So when you talk about American option, you have the time, you have the leverage, right? Just like the liberal America. And then your European option, it restricts exercise to expiry date itself. Fine. So that only on the expiry day you will be able to execute whatever the contract is there. The seller's continuous obligation does not convert the contract into a futures contract as the buyers retain the discretion throughout. Fine. So seller's continuous obligation does not mean that the contract will be converted to the futures contract, right? So such kind of options you can directly eliminate. Fine. Try to focus on the options and also on the keywords on in those options. Next, which of the following best reflects the money market character of commercial papers? So commercial papers, the CPs, they are issued for the periods ranging from 5 to 10 years. CPs are redeemable at premium and carry floating interest rates. CPs are perpetual instruments without a fixed maturity date, or CPs have short maturities ranging from minimum 7 days to a maximum of 1 year. Best reflects. You have to choose the most accurate out of all. Most accurate of all. Yes, what is the right answer? So CPs are issued for a period ranging from 5 to 10 years? No. CPs are redeemable at premium and carry floating interest rate. CPs are perpetual instruments without any fixed maturity date, or they have short maturity ranging from 7 days to maximum 1 year. D is the right answer. Yes. Commercial papers, they qualify as money market instruments because of their short maturity period. Issuance allowed for minimum of 7 days, maximum of 1 year. Such short tenures, they align CPs with liquidity management and ultimately working capital finance rather than the long-term funding. They are redeemable at par and structured as promissory notes, P notes as we call it, reinforcing their short-term low-risk profile within the money market segment rather than the capital market. Fine, within the money market they are. So quickly, let's just see the CPs here. CPs, they are the short-term borrowing by the corporates. And when we talk about the launching, it was launched in 1990. Issuers can be companies, NBFCs, AIFs, or you can issue it the standalone basis as well. Credit rating minimum triple A, fine, A3 rating must be there. And for the issue greater than 1000, then 1000 crore, then you have to attach the two CRAs. Rating from two CRAs will be attached, and the lower rating will be considered for the final CP issuance. Term duration 7 days to 1 year, not beyond the credit rating validity. Amount limit is also set. Overall limit should be 100% of the company's net owned fund. Holders can be individuals, banking companies, registered bodies, NRIs also, FIIs as well. And when we talk about the overall criteria here for the CPs, the most important one will be that any fund-based facility from bank or financial institution is classified as standard asset by all the financing banks or institution at the time of issue. It must be a standard asset. Very, very important. Fine. So this particular table is important. You can quickly go through this. Very important. Credit rating minimum A3, term 7 to 1 year, limit 100% buyback 30 days. Fine. 30 days is the buyback. Fine. Now let's just talk about the Global Textiles Limited based in India entering into factoring arrangement. 30 days, 30 days. Satpal was asking 30 days buyback. Yes. So Global Textiles Limited based in India enters into a factoring agreement with the FinEdge Export Finance. The Global Textiles ships a large consignment of organic cotton to the Urban Threads Inc. in New York. Under the agreement, Global Textiles receives the immediate funding from FinEdge. Urban Threads is instructed to pay FinEdge directly within 90 days. Within 90 days, you have to pay. To mitigate the risk of non-payment by the American buyer, FinEdge coordinates with NYC Credit Services. In this specific arrangement, 90 days pass and Urban Threads Inc. fails to make the payment due to the temporary insolvency. Which of the following actions will occur next to resolve the default? Who will be resolving the default? Because the company has defaulted, they have failed to make the payment. So the global textile must immediately refund the funding received from the export factor in case of factoring. Do you think so that it is with recourse? Right? Factoring is with recourse or without recourse? It is with the recourse, right? In India at least. So immediately refund the funding or what? The export factor recovers the amount from NYC Credit Services, who then bears the responsibility for recovering it from the buyer, right? We are talking about the involvement of one import factor who will be recovering from the buyer if the buyer fails, right? That is what we are talking about. Yes. The buyer pays the import factor directly to settle the initial debt before the export factor is involved. Or import factor cancels the account receivables and returns the debt obligation to the supplier. What is the right answer here? Correct answer is yes, option B. Good Satpal. B is the correct answer. A simple case wherein we are talking about what? A factoring arrangement based on the single factor system. Fine. Single factor system. We have supplier, we have the buyer. Then supplier will engage the export factor and there will be one import factor as well. Right. So supplier and export factor, they are directly linked. So is your supplier and buyer. But supplier and import factor not directly linked. Export factor will be involving the import factor and buyer will be engaged with the import factor. So how it starts, factoring agreement will be there between supplier and the export factor. Then the delivery of goods from the supplier to the buyer and assignment of the account receivables from the supplier to the export factor and export factor to the import factor. So import factor is now having the information. Funding to the supplier by the export factor will happen in the fourth step. Find this step. The payment by the buyer to the export factor directly, if the payment is made, no role is left for the import factor. But if the buyer defaults, like in this case, then what will happen? Import factor will pay to the export factor the money. And now the import factor, the ultimate factor which is there in the country of the buyer, that will be recovering money from the buyer. Okay. So that's how the 7 steps work in the single factor system. From here, you can expect one question. Okay, which conclusion best explains the investor's response to Ramesh's CP issuance? Right, CP issuance, commercial paper issuance. Ramesh Iyer, a senior treasury manager of a large corporate group, observed that even though his company was eligible to issue commercial papers, investors demanded high discounts when the overall market liquidity tightened. Ramesh noted that the company's fundamentals and the credit rating remained unchanged, yet market appetite weakened. He wondered whether this reaction reflected the issuer specific concern or the broader market behavior. What is the right answer? Only the issuer behavior, or we are talking about the market wide fluctuations? So market-wide liquidity conditions influence CP pricing irrespective of the issuer credit strength. No, issuer credit strength must be there, right? Commercial paper. Commercial paper discounts increase only when the issuer credit rating is under review. So the discounts will increase when the rating is under review. Investors are required to demand higher discounts by the RBI during the liquidity stress. So liquidity stress is there. We will be demanding higher discounts. Or the corporate CPs lose their unsecured status automatically in the tight liquidity period. What will be the right answer here? Investors demanded higher discount when the overall market liquidity tightened. The correct answer is option A. When you talk about market-wide liquidity conditions influence CP pricing irrespective of the issuer credit strength, right? So the strength will be there. Yes, it will be ultimately tested. But what about the market-wide liquidity fluctuations? If there is no money, if the market liquidity has tightened, how you will be ensuring the CP is there, right? The commercial papers, how you will be issuing that? Okay, money is not there, liquidity is not there, overall market has tightened up, right? The right answer is option A only, because CP pricing depends not only on the issuer creditworthiness but also on the overall liquidity conditions in the money market. Right? Liquidity is also very, very important. So for CP, always remember creditworthiness along with liquidity. Now let's just talk about the merchant banking. Consider the following in the context to the part of merchant banking. So you have 7 statements here. The first statement states investment banking division. The division focuses on providing investment banking services, including the underwriting, structuring, facilitating the issuance of securities such as stocks and bonds. Investment bankers assist the companies in raising the capital and entering the capital markets. So directly entering the capital market, that is your investment banking division. Corporate finance, merchant banks offer corporate finance services, advising the companies on mergers and acquisition M&A. Then we have divestitures, fine, disinvestment, divesting the funds. Then joint ventures and strategic partnerships. They assist clients in evaluating the financial opportunities and making the informed decisions. Fine, informed decisions will be made using the corporate finance. Then we have advisory services also under the merchant banking. So merchant banks, they provide financial and strategic advisory services to corporations, governments, institutions, includes financial restructuring, risk management, valuation, etc. That is also right. So up till now, so everything is correct. Let's just see the options. Na? Which of the above statement are correct? Okay, you have to tell the correct statement only. Fine. So 1, 2, and 3 are correct. Private equity and venture capital. Some merchant bankers have dedicated division for private equity also and the venture capital investment also. They invest in and provide the capital to startups, growing companies, and other businesses as well. Absolutely right. Asset management. The merchant banks may manage the investment portfolios on behalf of the institutional clients. Yes, that is the asset management. High net worth individuals, mostly we find those only in the merchant banking services. Compliance and regulatory affairs, the merchant banks offer risk management solution to the clients. This will be for the risk management services, not for the regulatory affairs. So sixth statement is wrong. Risk management and derivatives, merchant bankers have dedicated teams responsible for ensuring the compliance. This is for your compliance. Fine. So these two, you can say functions have been interchanged. So 6 and 7 are wrong, right? 6 and 7 are wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the right answer. Option A. Yes, A is the right answer. Okay. So like that, IIBF will also ask you questions. They will try to confuse you, and ultimately we have to read all the options. Sometimes there is no option. We have to go through all the particular questions options, right? Now, Mr. Sharma owns a factory which he bought 4 years ago for 20 lakhs. He has insured the factory for 14 lakhs, the written down value of the insured property. A fire broke out in the factory, causing the damage amounting to rupees 9 lakhs. Calculate the compensation amount to be paid by the insurance company. What will be the compensation here? So, how to calculate? Simply the compensation amount. We have three terms here. First of all, the ultimate ownership, that is your investment money, what you have invested actually 20 lakh. Then the factory was insured also, fine, insurance 14 lakh. And then we also have the damage, right? Damage as 9 lakh. This was the actual damage done. So 9 lakh is there as the damage, 14 divided by 20. What is the right answer? Everybody? 6.30, fine. Somewhere around 6, that is the approximate number. 6.30 lakh will be the right answer. B is correct. Fine. So when you talk about insured value divided by the total value, multiply by the actual loss. So insured value 14 divided by the total value, the actual value, which is your 20, multiply by the actual loss, which has been incurred. 7 by 10, we have what, 63 by 10, 6.3 as the right answer. Okay. Which of the following statements is incorrect regarding the universal account number yuan as implemented by the EPFO? EPFO has implemented yuan, and when you talk about the implementation, all these data points are important for the examination point of view. The yuan is a unique 12-digit number assigned to an employee. The yuan program was launched in October 2014 under the Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay Shramam Jayate Karyakram. Yes, the employee must open a new EPF every time they change their employer, resulting in the new yuan. So C is the incorrect statement and the right answer. Right? C is the right answer. Yuan, you will find 12-digit number. October 2014 it was launched and as the part of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay Shramam Jayate Karyakram. And owing to the yuan, employee needs to open the EPF account only once. Next, the construction firm needs a new crane. They are analyzing lease financing and hire purchase agreement. Fine. Which of the following statements correctly identifies a fundamental difference in how these two options would impact the firm's financial reporting and tax position? Financial reporting as well as the tax position we are talking about. Both the things you have to consider. What will be the right answer here? So, lease finance, the firm, the lessee can claim the depreciation on the crane, whereas in the hire purchase, only seller can claim it, only the seller. When we talk about the hire purchase, under the hire purchase, the firm becomes legal owner immediately, hire purchase immediately upon the first payment. While in lease, they never gain the ownership immediately after the first payment. That is the keyword. For tax purposes, a firm using lease finance treats the entire rental payment as the expense, whereas a firm using hire purchase only treats the interest option of the installment as an expense, only the interest option. The lease financing, the payment is split between principal and the interest for accounting purpose, while in your hire purchase, full payment is treated as the rent expense. What is the right answer? Correct answer is option C. Excellent job, guys. Everybody is with C. That is good to know. So when we talk about lease and hire purchase, in lease, no depreciation for you. Fine, you don't get the depreciation. You can claim full lease rent as expense only. So still you will be getting the tax benefit just in a different form via the rent as expense. In hire purchase, you will get the depreciation. You claim the depreciation as well as the interest. Both reduce your taxable income. So which one is better? Definitely, when we talk about the lease, higher expenses there. So good short-term tax relief will be there. But for long-term tax relief, always hire purchase wins the race. Lease and hire purchase, what are the differences? Lease finance, simply you use the asset by paying rent. Ownership stays with the owner. You have the right to use. That's it. Hire purchase, you buy the asset in installments. Ownership comes after the last payment. Then we have ownership option, usually no option to buy. In case of lease finance, there is no option whatsoever except the financial lease, right? Except your financial lease. Hire purchase, yes, there is option. Owner after the final installment. Ownership is there after the final installment, not in the first installment as was given in the first statement. Payment nature, full rent is there. It is treated as expense only in lease finance. In hire purchase, only the interest part is the expense and the principal is asset cost. Fine, that is your ultimate principal. The lease finance, lessor, the owner will claim the depreciation. You are claiming what? Rent as expense. Fine. Hire purchase, buyer, the hirer will claim the depreciation ultimately when becomes the owner. Tax benefit for the lessor, depreciation benefit is there. Lessee, rent as expense is there. Hire purchase, buyer has the depreciation as well as the interest deduction. Win-win situation. And the depreciation claim, it helps you to pay less tax because depreciation is treated as the non-cash expense. Fine. Okay. So very important table for our examination because time and again they have asked questions from the lease finance and hire purchase points of difference also. PDF will be there in the virtual library, and virtual library you can find in the description box. Fine. In the description of this video there is the first link wherein it is written that click on the link given below for PDF related to classes, virtual library. Okay. Fine. So which of the following statements correctly identifies a difference between NPS tier 1 and NPS tier 2 accounts? Okay. For the paid batches, I'll be sending. Don't worry. I'll send you the PDF. Fine. So tier 1 and tier 2 account, the point of difference. Tier 1 requires a minimum investment of 1000, while tier 2 requires only 500. So minimum investment for tier 1 is 1000 or it is 500, and tier 2 it is 1000. Tier 1 are logged until the age of 60, whereas tier 2 can generally be withdrawn anytime. Anytime. Both tiers allow for the additional tax deduction of 50,000 under the section 80 CCD, or the funds from tier 1 accounts can be moved to tier 2, but the reverse is not possible. What is the right answer? The correct answer is option B. Fine. B is the correct answer here. So when we talk about this question, NPS tier 1, tier 2, what all you should remember. So who can open the NPS tier 1? Any citizen. Tier 2, only if you have an active tier 1 account. That is the eligibility criteria. Minimum investment is 500 for tier 1. For tier 2, it is 1000. Locked till the age of 60 in case of tier 1. No lock-in is there as such, except 3-year lock-in for your central government employees who are claiming 80C benefit. Fine, only for the central government employees this is applicable. Tax benefits 1.5 lakh under the 80C deduction, additional 50,000 under 80 CCD. NPS tier 2, no tax benefit for the private employees. Central government employees can claim under the section 80C, but with 3-year lock-in. Withdrawal rules for the NPS tier 1, partial withdrawal up to 25% allowed after 3 years for some specific reasons. At the age of 60 years, at 60 years, 60% lump sum will be given to you, the corpus, and out of that corpus, 40% compulsory annuity will be there. NPS tier 2 can withdraw anytime, anytime. Tax on withdrawal, 60% of the corpus withdrawn at maturity is tax free. 40% the monthly, you can say, pension will attract tax. NPS tier 2 withdrawal amount is added to income, and ultimately whatever the tax slab is there, accordingly you will be paying the tax. Fund transfer, EPF can be transferred to tier 1. Tier 2 funds can be moved to tier 1, but in case of tier 2, you cannot see that you will be able to transfer the funds from tier 1. From tier 1, they cannot move to tier 2, but the opposite is permissible. And who is the nodal agency here? PFRDA is the nodal agency along with Government of India, regulated by PFRDA authority under the Government of India itself. Eligibility open to public, private and unorganized sectors, excluding the armed forces. Post retirement, you will find that users can withdraw up to 60% and the remaining 40% is given as the monthly pension. Tax exemption 1.5 lakh and 50,000, and PRAN number is associated with this particular scheme. A unique 12-digit PRAN will be there, permanent retirement account number. Then the government model will be having a mandatory obligation that the contributions, the employer should contribute 10% of the salary, employer to contribute 14%. All citizen model, the residents NRIs aged 18 to 70 years, they will be contributing, eligible for contribution. And the wealth calculation is how? It is simply contribution plus the investment growth minus the charges. In case of distribution, it is handled by the POP SPs, point of presence service providers, like public sector banks, private sector banks, and other intermediaries are also there. Investment, you will find funds are managed by pension fund managers, and SBI fund, pension funds is the default manager of this particular scheme. Right. So after that, we have the investment models also. Active choice, you make the choice what asset class you want to invest. Auto choice, automatically based on your age profile. Withdrawal rules, partial is allowed after 3 years. You can withdraw 25% of own contribution, maximum 3 times it can happen. Premature, before age of 60, it is allowed after 10 years. Fine. Only after 10 years, or 3 years if joined after 60 age. Withdraw 20%, 80% must be invested in the annuity. Fine. Only 20% you can withdraw, remaining will be there with the as an annuity. If the corpus is less than 2.5 lakh, the full amount is given as the lump sum. Fine. All the amount will be given to you in the lump sum manner. Normal withdrawal, when we talk about at the age of 60, what will happen? So 60% withdrawal directly, the lump sum, 40% is invested in an annuity, and regular payments will be there. If the corpus is less than 5 lakh, the full amount is given as the lump sum again. After 75 years, one can choose to continue until 75 or exit before that time period. Fine. So I hope that after this discussion of NPS, no doubt will be there. Whatsoever the question is, we'll be able to handle regarding NPS. Which of the following statements is are correct? Incorrect. Yes, incorrect regarding the call and put option. Try to answer this question. Call and put. The call option is right to buy an underlying asset at a fixed price at a future date. A put option is the right to sell an underlying asset at a fixed price at a future date. Call option is the obligation of the option writer to sell an underlying asset at a fixed price at a future date again. Put option is the obligation of the option buyer to buy an underlying asset at a fixed price at a future date. What is the right answer? Simple definition of call and put option. Try to answer, everybody. I want answer from everybody because this is a basic question, right? And such basic questions are also asked for 1 marker also. Yes. Okay. Uh, we have varied answers here. Correct answer is option D. Put option is obligation of the option buyer to buy the underlying asset at a fixed price at a future date. Fine. We are talking about the incorrect statement. Fine. Okay. So put option, here is the difference also. Option buyer or the option holder, what all option they have? Call option, you buy the right to buy. Fine. The ultimate option buyer, they are buying the right to buy the underlying asset at a specified price. Fine. buying the right to buy. Then for the put option, you buy the right to sell, not to buy, to sell in the put option the underlying asset at a specified price. So always remember, call means buying it, put means selling it, right to sell. Then it is for the buyer, fine, option holder. What about the option writer or the seller, the option seller as we call it? In case of call option, they have the obligation to sell the underlying asset at a specified price to the option holder. You have to sell it. That is the obligation. Put option has the obligation to buy. Fine. Put option, in case of seller, you will be the ultimate party. In case of put option, to buy, so has the obligation to buy the underlying asset at a specified price. And in D, what was mentioned, put option is obligation of option buyer. Option buyer is not having any kind of obligation here, fine, in the put option to buy the underlying asset at a fixed price. No, option seller has the obligation to buy, not the buyer. So D is the right answer, because incorrect was asked na. Okay, with reference to the options contract in the derivatives market, select the correct statements from the following. Options contract. Option writer is the one who buys an option, which can be a call or put option. Option holder enjoys the right to buy or sell the underlying asset at a specified price on or before the specified time. American option is the one which can be exercised by the buyer on the expiration day only. Just now we have seen that is the European one. European option is the one which can be exercised by the buyer on or before the expiration date. That is the American one, right? So what is the right answer here? Correct statement. Correct statement is option B. Option holder enjoys the right to buy or sell the underlying asset at a specified price on or before the specified time. Fine. You are enjoying the right to buy or sell because you are the holder, na? Just now we have seen this. Holder means what? You will be having the right to buy. You are buying the right to buy or to sell. You don't have any obligation, but as a seller, you have the obligation under the call option, under the put option. Fine. Okay, so B is the correct answer here. Option holder is the one who buys an option, which can be call or put option. They enjoy the right to buy or sell the underlying asset at a specified price or on before the specified time. Who is the option seller or the option writer as we call it? They are the ones who are obligated to buy from the option holder. Fine. Seller, always remember the writer. They are the one who is obligated. They will be obligated to buy from the option holder or sell the option holder in case of your call option, the underlying asset in case the buyer of the option decides to exercise the option. Fine. The buyer wants, you give. American option, simply it is the one which can be exercised by the buyer anytime, fine, before the before or off on or before the expiration date. European option can be exercised by the buyer only on the expiration day. Right. Next, let's talk about the CDS with reference to the Reserve Bank of India RBI guidelines on credit default swaps in the derivatives market. Select the correct statements from the following. So what are these credit default swaps? Simply, you are doing what? You are a particular party to an agreement and you provided some money to the another party, that is P2. Now you think that this party will default based on market condition or for that matter the financials of this company. You think so. So you enter into an arrangement known as credit default swap. So a company or for that matter mostly the uh, financial institution, they will be doing what? Acting as an insurance company only. Fine. Acting as an insurance company like an insurer. So they will take the credit risk, the credit default, which will be borne by you from you, and ultimately you are free and you can do your business. Fine. That is the basic idea of your CDS. So RBI issued the draft guidelines for the credit default swaps in February 2016, or the date was something else. RBI has proposed to allow retail users undertake transactions in permitted credit derivatives for hedging their underlying credit risk. Fine, hedging. Or non-retail users shall be allowed to undertake transactions in credit derivatives for both the hedging and other purposes. What is the right answer here? In the CDS arrangement, credit default swap, RBI, B is the right answer. The draft guidelines were not issued in 2016. Indeed, it was in 2021. Fine, the draft guidelines on your credit default swaps. Under the said guidelines, RBI proposed to allow the retail users undertake the transactions in the permitted credit derivatives for hedging their underlying credit risk. Non-retail users, they shall be allowed to undertake the transactions in credit derivatives for both the hedging as well as other purposes. Fine. So retail, non-retail users, what are the obligation? All these things you should remember. Another question on the CDS, because this is an important term, or for that matter, important mechanism of your derivatives market. With reference to the credit default swaps, CDS, in the derivatives market, select the correct statements from the following. CDS is a financial derivative or contract that allows an investor to swap or offset his or her credit risk with that of the another investor, swapping from one investor to another. If a lender is worried about the borrower that is going to default on the loan, the lender could use CDS to offset or swap that risk. That is the ultimate agenda. To swap the risk of default, investor or the lender buys the CDS from the CDS seller, who agrees to reimburse the investor in case of the default by the borrower. So what is the right answer here? It is a financial derivative, right? Correct answer is option D. All are correct. Financial derivatives, yes. Offset the ultimate risk, and who will be buying it? The ultimate investor who will be buying it. Okay. Agrees to reimburse the investor, your particular CDS seller, right? CDS seller. Right. Now comes your CDs. What are these credit default swaps? So credit default swaps, they are just like insurance on loan, or for that matter bond. If you lend the money, when you just imagine that you are lending money to somebody and now you fear that the money won't come back, so you can buy a credit default swap in order to protect yourself. So supposingly you lend 10 lakh to a company, and you are now worried that it may default, it may not repay you. So you buy the CDS and you will pay the premium fee, regular amount to that particular entity. In return, the company will do what? If the company defaults, this CDS seller will pay you the loss. That is the simple observation, simple criteria how the credit default swap works. What are the important points to remember? If no default happens, you will lose something, but not everything. You will only lose the premium. But if the default happens, you get the compensation. But risk is still there, because ultimately the CDS seller will be able to recover the money or not. That is the question. So if the CDS seller also fails, then risk still remains. In India, CDS market is regulated by RBI. Only the eligible entities, mainly the bank and the financial institutions, they can act as the CDS sellers. Fine. Okay. So what is the right answer? Everybody is with me. Good. Parties involved, minimum three will be there. One will be the borrower who may default. Then we have the investor or the lender who buys the CDs, or for that matter, the last one, your CDS seller who gives the protection. Fine. So I hope that all of your doubts are addressed. Let me just see what are the doubts here. Okay, okay, I'll be explaining the derivatives via a dedicated file. Don't worry. Till here, everything is fine. Okay, fine. Now let's just move towards derivatives. Let's just revise derivatives for a while. Fine. Fine. So in case of derivatives, let's just start with the classification first. Fine. What all classification is there? So simply stated, we will be having one or two important classes here. First is your financial derivatives, and then we have the commodity derivatives. These are the two types of derivatives. After that, we have the classification, fine, the actual classification as we call it. Exchange traded, the financial derivatives, exchange traded, which are traded on the exchange, the OTC market is there. Futures, swaps, forward contract, exotics, they are the part of OTC. Futures and options, F&O in the exchange traded manner. For the futures contract, what do we have to remember? So simply the future contract is an obligation to buy or sell an asset. Fine. You have the obligation wherein you will be buying or selling an asset at a fixed price at a future date. Fine. Not today, but at a future date. Just imagine that Ramesh thinks that Reliance Industries will rise. Ultimately, he buys one lot of futures, Reliance futures as such, the shares at 2500. Now, if the price actually rises, he will profit. He will make profit. So, like that, you are doing what? Some contracts known as future contracts. That in future the price will be fluctuating, and that will help us to make money. Then comes your option contract, call option, put option. Two types of options are there. So option simply what you have to remember, it gives the buyer the right, right? Not the obligation. Only it is giving the right to the buyer to buy or sell an asset at a fixed price before the expiry or on the expiry. The buyer pays a premium for this right. Buyer will be paying the premium for this particular right to obtain this right. Call option and put option, right to buy at a fixed price, your call option, right to sell at a fixed price, put option. I am buying, calling to buy. I am putting all these assets to sell, right? Like that you can remember, correlate. Indian example, if we talk about the call option, Priya is having, let's suppose, some TCS shares. She buys a call option and the strike price is 3600 and pays a premium of, let's suppose, 50 rupees. Now the TCS price rises 3800. Now this is a right. Fine, call option is not an obligation here. It is just a right. So she will do what? She will exercise this right and making the profit of 150 rupees per share. But if it falls, then you don't have to engage yourself in that trade. Why? Because there is no obligation. She simply lets the option expire. Loss is only the premium amount which she has paid. Then comes your put option, simply right to sell at a fixed price, selling at a fixed price. So just imagine that Vijay holds the HDFC Bank shares. Now he fears that the crash will be there, the ultimate market crash will be there, elections are coming. So he buys a put option, right? So he will be doing what? Not buying it, right to sell at a fixed price. So let's just assume that HDFC falls to 1200. He now exercises that he can sell the 15 at 1500 and ultimately protect himself. Fine. He has this right to sell at a fixed price. Fine. Mark this very important. Price is fixed and you are having a right, not an obligation. If HDFC stays up, option expires, small premium is lost, but portfolio is safe. When you are safeguarding your portfolio via these arrangements, when call option and put option. Then comes forward contracts. So forward contracts, simply, it is a private customized agreement. When we talk about the forwards, OTC is involved. In the futures, we have the your exchanges. Yes, exchanges, stock exchanges will be there. Right. So the forwards, they are traded on private OTC platforms. Futures, NS, CBS, CMCX, customization, fully customized. OTC, whatever you want to do, standardized. Fine. That is why we call the futures trade as standardized trade and forwards trade as non-standardized trade. The counterparty risk is very high. Fine. No exchange is guaranteed, but on the exchange, when you are doing the trade via the futures, it is very, very low because cleared by the exchange only. Settlement and expiry only for the futures daily market to market. Then we have swaps. You are trading off something for the other. So interest rate swaps, you are trading your interest rate for the other interest rate. Currency swap, swapping the currency. Credit default swap, swapping the credit defaults, right? So when you talk about the interest rate swap, just have one example in mind. Supposingly SBI has a loan at a floating rate. Fine. It fears that the interest rate will rise and ultimately we will have to pay more. So it enters into a swap with HDFC. SBI will pay the fixed rate to HDFC. HDFC pays the floating rate. And why the HDFC will do that? Because sometimes when the HDFC might require the services, SBI will oblige with the services. So HDFC will pay the floating rate to SBI, and SBI is now protected from rate hikes. It has swapped the floating risk for the fixed certainty. HDFC can utilize the floating rate option for some other trade as well. Right? So win-win situation for both the parties. Then we have your currency swap. Simply, your Indian company is earning in what? US dollar, but INR is the spending, like Infosys. Just have the example here. Infosys has the US dollar earnings, but expenses are in INR only because India based company. So US company has the INR earnings. Some company will be having the INR company, but the USD expenses. So you will be swapping the currency here. They enter into a currency swap, exchange principal and interest payment in different currencies, each effectively getting the currency they need without the forex conversion cost. You are saving something. Here, interest rate swap, what SBI has saved? SBI has saved itself from the fluctuation of floating rate. Currency swap, the particular parties, they have saved, both of them, they have saved themselves from the price fluctuation, the forex conversion cost. Then in the credit default swap, just now we have seen the questions also. The bank supposedly gives you 200 crore loan to the real estate developer. Now the default might happen because of the condition of the real estate market. So the bank buys CDS from the insurance like counterparty and pays regular premium. If the developer defaults, the SBI will lose the premium amount. And if the developer does not, if the developer defaults, the counterparty will compensate the bank. If the developer does not default, SBI only loses the premium amount. Okay. So that's how all these important derivatives instruments you should remember. Okay, fine, done. Now one more question based on the CDS. With the reference to the credit default swaps in the derivatives market, select the correct statements. Right? Correct statements from the following. The credit default swap CDS is a financial derivative or a contract that allows the investor to swap or offset his or her credit risk with that of the another investor. Fine, another investor you are swapping. If the lender is worried that the borrower is going to default on the loan, the lender could use the CDs and to offset or swap that risk. And when we talk about the swap risk of default, the investor lends to the buyer. This we have done, right? This question we have already discussed. D is the right answer. Yes. So all the questions which were supposed to be done today, we are done with those questions. Now let's wrap up the class. Fine. We have discussed all the important pointers here related to all the four modules. So what I would suggest to everybody, try to revise from the sources which you are reading. For our paid subscribers, I will highly recommend the summary sheets. you should read from those summary sheets. And also I have given you one particular sheet where all the important topics are listed. So start reading those topics first and then move on to the next topics. So that should be the process flow which you must follow. Apart from this also, if you have any kind of difficulty, feel free to ask me in the comment section. Fine. So we'll see you guys in the next session, which is lined up. Fine. We will be having multiple sessions today. So do stay tuned on this particular channel, because we'll be coming up with the all four modules marathon also. Then we will be coming up with your a session which is live mock test solving. Fine, we'll be solving all the 100 questions live in the live environment. Fine, like your examination. And over the top of that, one numerical plus MCQ plus case study session is also there. So all these three sessions you will be able to uh, witness here in this particular channel only. So stay tuned to ADA 247 JAB CAB English Medium. See you guys in the next